now tuned into the 2-Minute Warning, a live stream community conversation pertaining to social and political issues and how we can collectively resolve them. Powered by the Westside Gazette.
Good evening and welcome to the 2-Minute Warning. I'm here as your host tonight. My name is David Wright, and alongside me is Mr. Bobby R. Henry Sr., the senior editor of the Westside Gazette, the biggest, blackest, boldest, oldest family-owned newspaper in Broward County, and chairman of the NNPA. How you feeling, my brother?
Oh man, I am terrific and getting better. I'm a little nervous, believe it or not. This has been one hectic day. And I had to, on numerous occasions, had to calm myself down, take some deep breaths, do a little bit of yoga. This is a very exciting time. And Brother David, to be perfectly honest, and we always are, this particular segment is brand new to me.
Yes. So, this is election 2024.
Yeah.
Is this the one we've been waiting for?
Absolutely. Win, lose, or draw, we in it to win it.
We in it.
So
we are definitely in it.
Yeah.
And this is truly the thick of it. So we're about an hour away
from the
polls closing.
We're here.
And we're hearing about a lot of large turnouts and people in line on the day of the election. And I'm excited. I was out there in the midst at my precinct earlier today and had an opportunity to take my grandson down there to see the process in action.
Okay.
And he was really impressed and got his I vote sticker put on him. But
how old is your grandson?
Well, he's only 10. He wasn't able to vote.
Thank you.
But he was able to see the process from the ID card to finding yourself in the system to the actual casting of the ballots and seeing the actual vote count on the machine. So he was somewhat impressed with that.
It should be, man. And that's what we should do from infancy, is to begin that process,
Yes.
So, again, I allude to the fact that tonight is something extremely brand new to me. So I solicited the help of some experts to come in and help us along with this. But if I can stop for a minute, just back
wise counsel.
Yeah, just back up for one moment. Today is a very special day for us here too at the Westside Gazette. About 30 plus years ago, on a November night in Dayton, Ohio, it was cold and it was kind of eerie. My wife was 9 months pregnant, and the baby just didn't want to come. We went to the hospital one time. We turned us around and we had to go back home. So by this time, my nerves are really tight. And I'm trying to find some encouragement in the bottle. So I was, trying to maintain my cool. Went back again, and this time he said, "Okay, it might happen." But I saw my wife get up on her tiptoes because the pain was hitting, So finally we had to go in. And early that morning, God blessed us with a big, healthy, strong baby boy. And on that day, November the 5th, what was it, 1990? Well, what are those days? 85? Yeah. God blessed us with a bouncing, healthy baby boy. And today is his birthday. And that's my son, Broderick James Henry. He's the producer of the show. He's back behind us, directing things. So I wanted to do that and get that out of the way. So I along with the nervousness from that part and revisiting that, here we are.
Well, they're my Stevie Wonder boys. I'm just gonna say happy birthday to you, my producer.
Yeah, happy birthday. So, but you wanna do the honors and bring the young man who insisted that we do this?
Yes, by all means. Mr. Brandon Freeny, he was a part of our show last week. And after the show, we had this brainstorm. Brandon just kind of put it out there, and the rest is history. So without any further delay, Mr. Brandon Freeny, are you with us, sir?
I absolutely am, Mr. David Wright. How are you?
Hey, man, we're excited. I was a little nervous, but I'm excited.
Yeah.
I mean, it's nothing to be nervous about. I feel like I already know the outcome, so I feel. What you say, Bobby? Getting what you usually say.
Terrific
I'm
and
feeling
getting
good and getting better.
terrific and getting better. Yes, sir.
There it is. That's where I'm at with it right now.
That's
Awesome.
great.
Awesome. So give us a little more insight then on that feel good.
Well, at the end of the day, when you take a look at some of the indicators that would, give somebody a strong sense of feeling good about their side, all things are pointing towards Madam Vice President Kamala Harris. When you talk about the polls, when you talk about the enthusiasm, when you talk about the great things she's done on the campaign trail, as well as the mistakes that the other side is making and have made over the past few years and just even recently, I mean, things are looking very, very good in our favor. So, like I said, I feel really, really good about the prospects that are going to begin to happen at 7 o'clock, not too long from now.
Very good, very good. And I see we got somebody from the big state of Texas in the back room for a moment. And I know she's got to put her paper to bed if she has not already. I know she's working. So if you don't mind, if I can bring her on. Okay, so let me bring on Cheryl Smith, publisher of the iMessenger News. She's several newspapers. Member of the NNPA. She is our national treasure and just a well-rounded individual. FAMU graduate, a member of Delta Sigma Theta, and a person that has her hand or her fingers on the pulse of what's happening in Texas. Talk to us, Cheryl. What's going on?
What's going on?
Yeah.
Well, I'm you said the state of Texas, but I just left the state of Florida.
Yeah, okay.
So it's like going from the frying pan into the fire. And I just have to say something real quickly about your advertising there, because I hear just all over the place, been out and telling people to vote. I've seen ads of Black men. And if you can go back to the days when they were doing the O.J. Simpson trial, and remember the cover of Time magazine that was where he was darkened, and I've seen a lot of that happening with Black males in Florida. And I said, is anybody going to say anything about this? Because they try to demonize the Black man. That's what I saw going on in Florida. But and then I saw it going on here, and I said, now it just so happens some of the people that I saw in Florida, like Darryl Parks, they were dark-skinned Black men. But Colin Allred here, Congressman Colin Allred, who is running to unseat Ted Cruz, is not a dark-skinned Black man, but they were making him dark and trying to make him look like a monster. And unfortunately, we're still dealing with that today with the advertising. And the advertising has been really ugly. But I saw really ugly advertising in Florida, for sure. And
go ahead, Cheryl.
Yeah, no, go ahead.
No, I was thinking, sometimes we can't see the forest for the trees. And I'm saying that, here sometimes we forget until somebody from that, I shouldn't say we forget. It becomes so suppressive that it's shoot, and until somebody brings it up, and then we go back and say, "Oh my goodness, here we are," just when we thought it was safe to go back in the water. Yeah,
right, so, most definitely, and that's that's really unfortunate. I tell you here, and we've been pushing out stuff all day. I have everybody on my team, they're content creators today because we're pushing stuff out social media wise, and we're telling people to vote, and we're trying to address some of the issues if some of them have issues, if they've been misguided about things. Is we're getting down to the wire, and I think didn't I hear someone say that we got this?
Yeah, that was our young Brandon, one of our hosts. Is he back? There he is. Brandon.
I'm back. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
And I've heard that a lot, but you just can't let up. And that's one thing, unfortunately, excuse me, that the Democratic Party, which I have my concerns about that. And I say if we keep on going, Win with Black Women could be another party. Because the action we saw from them and the bringing people together, whatever happens, we know that the Democratic Party cannot act as it has been acting in the past. It cannot diss black people, number one. And I
Speak
mean,
to us. Don't speak at us. Speak to us.
yes, men and women, you know, and then you got to stop bowing down for the Republican Party, letting them get away with things. And that's one thing she happens to be my Congresswoman, Jasmine Crockett, she said she fought back because she couldn't convince her constituents that she would fight for them if they saw her not fighting for herself.
Okay.
And you see a lot of things going on that the Congresswoman from Georgia was allowed to get away with, and you just have to ask yourself, why is this happening? And I say a lot of it has to do with the Democratic Party is really weak. You have black men and others who cannot vote because they are felons, and then you have a felon on the ballot. And you can play with that all you want to, but there are a number of other things, and a congresswoman was pointing it out. She was saying how in the chambers you are not supposed to wear hats, and the congresswoman from Georgia wears hats, and no one stops her. The speaker was suspending the rules and letting her abuse our congresswoman, and all these other folks weren't saying anything. It is time out for that. We need a stronger Democratic Party, and I think it will be. And the thing about it is, we need for if people want to be Republicans. I'm saying be a Republican, but don't be an anti-black Republican. And
Indeed.
that's what oftentimes we see. If you have disdain for your own skin, and so that's what we're dealing with. There's a lot. It's a new day, regardless of what happens. It's a new day, and then we also have to be on guard because um, it's going to be crazy. Either way, it's going to be crazy, or it's going to be crazy with a crazier person at the helm.
Hold that thought right there for a moment, Cheryl. I see if we can do this. I see we got two people in the backstage. There's one brother in particular, and Calvin, I'm gonna get to you. Hold tight, Calvin. There's one brother in particular, Derek. Derek is an author. He's a former Black Fed retired, and he worked under several of our presidents. He has written a book. Now we're gonna get more into that on another show. We're gonna have him back. But I want to bring Derek Gilliard on, and let Derek talk a little bit about his book, The Longest 4 Years of My Life, A View from the Field by a Black Fed in the Trump administration. Brother Derek, what's happening?
Oh, you got it. So good to be here with such an esteemed panel. Speaking a lot of truth tonight in a whole lot of ways. Yes, I began in the Clinton administration in 1998 at the tail end, always working for political appointees for the 8 southeastern states at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. So you think, particularly in the Trump administration, you think his COVID denialism that cost us at least 300,000 lives. You think his to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, that despite well over 100 lawsuits that they lost, you think his mischaracterization of the Justice Marches to try and make them being about the flag and the national anthem as opposed to the over-policing of Black men, and even his treatment of the children separated from their families at the border, and happened to be in the only all-Black office of the 10 in the country. And of course, our region, which stretched from the hardscrabble mountains of Kentucky down to the Mississippi Delta to the South Florida. So the blackest region in the country with the most poverty, the most illiteracy, the most disparities in health, and the deepest vestiges from slavery and Jim Crow. So it was a time that we had there, and so as we all know, we certainly don't need to go back.
Absolutely. Now hold that thought, Derek. I'm gonna let you come in, Dave. I know Calvin is on deadline as some of the publishers gonna come in and out. They're on deadline. So Derek, you just hang with us because you're going to be with us. So if I can bring Brother Calvin Anderson on. Calvin is from Memphis, Tennessee. He's also an NNPA board member. His newspaper is the New Tri-County Defender. Calvin, what's happening, my brother? What's going on in Tennessee? Tri-State Defender.
Bobby, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and greetings to you and the West Side Gazette and all of the NPA publishers that's gathered with us tonight. Listen, it's been an exciting, time running up to this election, which we are cautiously optimistic that it will deliver Kamala Harris to the presidency. We've had our team out all today. We did a lot of pre-election information coverage and awareness with conjunction with the County Election Commission. We've had the team out today with photographers at the polling locations, with editors doing social media feeds, and just that continuing to encourage our readers to go and vote if you haven't, and to call someone in your family if you have and you think they haven't, because the turnout's important.
Calvin, put your information in the chat box, man, so our viewers can have access to you too.
We'll be glad to.
I have a question for the publishers, both of you guys. What are some of the ballot initiatives in your states that you think are driving this turnout? Start with you, Brother Calvin and Sister Cheryl. What are some of the ballot initiatives? Are there, different amendments and things of that other than the top of the ticket that may be driving?
Well, they really aren't at the top of the ticket. We have a lot of propositions that deal with paying police more, paying our city council and mayor more. And I think, interestingly, it's really funny because I don't know if you know, our mayor, one of the largest cities in the country, has a black mayor, and he switched parties during his second term. Yes, and so now he's a Republican. And I think people were definitely saying they don't want to pay him more money, but those are some, and they aren't really driving people there. Especially in this area and across the country, across the entire state of Texas, they think they're a country. They black people want Cruz out. They definitely want Ted Cruz out. And the push is on. Like, I haven't heard this ground swelling of people saying, black men especially, like they try to saying we're not voting for the vice president, and we're voting for Donald Trump. I will tell you, I am a little concerned, with the proposition that we have to deal with, land and issues that we have there. But the main, looking at some of the other positions that we have, people that are running for office that you want to keep in office, that are down ballot, getting people to vote down the entire ballot, because you have some people come in, they're just going to click at the top. Our Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett does not have an opponent. You did have a long list of people who were running for Colin Allred's position. So, when we look at what the issues are, people are really getting ready for, in one of the most repressive states in the country, we have voter fatigue. Because soon as this is over, there are candidates already ready to put their signs out. They have bought advertising, because we have municipal elections coming up in a few months. And so we have this voter fatigue going on. And one of the issues on the ballot is to limit the number of elections, because how can you keep telling people every time we turn around, there's an election? And so we're in a constant mode of trying to educate, trying to get people out, and they get tired and they don't come out and vote. So that is the main thing. We are concerned, they say that Texas is the buckle on the Bible belt, on this belt. This is the buckle. And we do have some people, let's face it, you have churches that don't let women in the pulpit. And
It's-
just like you have those preachers who don't want women in the pulpit, there are black women who don't see it also. So you have that you're fighting. You also have, I was teaching a class earlier today, and I was saying we have a governor who is so hell bent on being a certain way that he is in a wheelchair, but he signs legislation, signs orders actually that make it difficult for physically handicapped people to vote, to actually have fewer polling places. So what does that say about you? You making it harder for people who are like you to vote. We're in a state where you have people having Mexican folks telling other Mexicans to go back to Mexico. That's how deep ingrained the issues that we're dealing with. So we have a number of issues, David, that I think some of them could be solved if we could get some people out of office, and it begins with Ted Cruz.
Okay.
Well, we're going to continue to pray for Texas. We always have. But like you said, Brother Calvin, they think they're another state. They think they're another country, right?
Yes.
They
Yes.
always say they could succeed from the Union at any time. So, but Brother Calvin, over in Tennessee, what do y'all got going on there?
We did not have any statewide ballot initiatives. There were local initiative that was done in Memphis by the city council, placing it on the ballot, designed to do two things. One, to help to gin up turnout, but these were referendums on trying to seek trigger laws to give the local municipality control over regulating guns should there be a change in state law. We have the ridiculous gun laws that Texas has, which is anyone 18 years of age can walk into a place and buy a gun and walk out with a gun and ammunition. They don't have to have any training. They don't have to have any permit, and they can't be stopped and inquired about a gun if they're walking down the street with it unless there is probable cause to stop and ask them about where they're going with the gun, what are their intentions, etc., which is just ultimately ridiculous in a community with a population of 700,000 that you've got that kind of free flow of guns. And this is pistols, shotguns, AR-15, whatever weapon you can walk in and buy, you can walk around the street in open carry, what's called constitutional carry in Tennessee.
Wow.
Okay. Sounds similar, huh?
So that look like we're gonna flip Tennessee this tonight.
No, Tennessee will not be flipped this time. The only thing that is a real competitive race is a congressional district in Nashville, where you've got an opportunity to flip that one. Otherwise, Tennessee is going to remain where it is in both its congressional delegation and how the votes are going to go on president.
Yeah. Well, they'll probably flip a coin and shoot it out the sky. That's probably what they'll do over there. Brother Derek, we want to bring you back in on the conversation. I know we started that conversation with you and your adventure these past 4 years. How do you see all of these different state initiatives that were just talked about? How does that kind of tie in with some of your experiences?
Well, I think unfortunately it's one step forward and two steps back, but that's been the history of our people, and we can never forget it. And we can't afford to have voter fatigue, frankly, because I would tell you before, I'll say this, which may help. So before I went to work for the federal government, I was Joseph Lowry's communications director at the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Excuse me. And we almost never had a victory. I mean, we were fighting 2 strikes and you're out. We were always fighting for redistricting. We were fighting educational tracking, hate crimes, and rarely, maybe 1 out of 10 or 15 times we'd see something go right. But the reminder was that, you know, there's no promise of a quick fix. And it's like here in Georgia when after we, you know, delivered the Senate to President Biden with a Warnock victory, the first black senator elected since Reconstruction, and the young Jewish senator John Ossoff, then the House passes a bill saying that you are going to get fined if you hand out water and snacks to people in line. So, you know, we know that that's our story, and that's so the price of liberty is eternal vigilance. We can't let go, and we can't step back. So we have to know that. And I personally, this is one of my soapboxes. I feel like all of us who haven't taught our children that and aren't teaching our children's children, you know, it's our fault, because we saw our parents struggle and be marginalized and go through hell. And so I think many of us knew we had an obligation to be successful and to stand on their shoulders. And I think some of us have privileged our children too much and haven't made sure they know their history, because of people who fails to know their history is doomed to repeat it. And we can see that, not even to get into stuff like Project 2025.
Oh, Mr. Gilliard, I mean, you just said a mouthful, and I think you know that. Guess what? The work begins for us either way tomorrow, regardless of what the outcome is. And that's why I love what the Win with Black Women did and all the groups after that. But I just really have to implore us as Black people, and and the West Side Gazette has been really good about incorporating young people into things. But too often I've heard people criticizing young people for not knowing their history and not knowing their who came before us and what the struggles were. And I found that a lot of us seasoned people don't know it either. But I also implore us to, while we're telling them to learn about history and the past and things that they will never see, it's important that we get into their world. And we have to know theirs. I was sitting watching the BET Awards, and the category named 7 people, and I didn't know any of them. And I said, okay. Now I said, so we're telling them we're not knowing what's there for us to see right here in this space and time, and we're trying to take them back 200 years. We gotta strike a balance there. So you know, we have a lot of work to do, and I would love to see. I think that by Texas knocking out Cruz, we are on our way to flipping the state. And it's not that Texas is so red as it is. The laws that are in place are so repressive. They are designed to discourage voting.
Sure, if I could, I'm gonna interject one. I'm gonna go back for a minute. Calvin, why your folk are out canvassing and doing their poll watching and doing their stories, did you get any reports on the number of young folk? Has that number increased, or what's the feeling on that?
Unfortunately, that number hasn't increased exponentially. There were more young people that the indication that they were seeing at the polls. There are more young people in the early vote numbers, but that number is up, but not by any real measurable numbers, and that's the unfortunate thing. We'll wait and see what the final tally is, after you get the day of election votes today. But it's up, but Bobby, it is not up by a significant number.
Okay, those two soldiers that you have in Tennessee.
Yes.
Preston and Jones.
Justin Jones and Justin Pearson.
Isn't the third one running for office also?
Yeah, the third one of that Tennessee 3 is Gloria Johnson, who is running for the U.S. Senate seat held by Marsha Blackburn. She's put forth a really good campaign. There's been a lot of good energy around it. She has gone after Senator Blackburn on this set of issues relevant to Tennessee, but it's just sort of some baked in votes there in Tennessee that is going to probably make that effort come up really short.
Calvin, I want to stay with you for one moment. Now I know that John Lewis plays a very significant role in your life.
Yes.
And I do know that the Divine Nine, the fraternities have been doing different things. What's happening with that great fraternity, Sigma Gamma? What Sigmas? What are they?
Yeah.
Beta?
Well, Phi Beta Sigma fraternity, along with the Kappas, the Omegas, the Alphas, as well as the sororities in the D9 and the Iotas, have all been working really collaboratively from a D9 framework. In fact, the international president of Phi Beta Sigma is the chairman of the President's Council with the D9. So there have been a great effort that they've put forth across the country and in individual chapters. And in Memphis, I know that they've done really good work here. But again, it's that thing of going out to register the unregistered, but then pushing up the awareness. But somewhere there's still a little bit of a fall off on getting from registered to aware to the poll to actually vote. And we all got to do a better job at that. And to the point Cheryl was making, maybe we need to bend into their world a little bit, as opposed to just saying, y'all come and bend into ours. And maybe we can reach them and turn them out better by virtue of being where they are before the time comes up that you need them to go vote.
Okay. All right.
I want to double down on that one. I totally agree both with you, Calvin, and Cheryl on that. We really have to come with a listening ear to our young people, not just preaching about what we've done, our ancestors done, but understanding where they are so that we can connect the dots with them, so that we can connect them to their past and help them understand the vigilance. As Derek said, we have to stay vigilant because the backlash is coming. Anytime we make a step forward, 2 steps forward, here comes the attack, trying to take it all back. So, and we got to find this perfect storm, this mix that's going to help us then merge that gap, if it is one.
And David, we have to, Bobby, Cheryl, I, and the other publishers, we have to make that awareness piece and that engagement piece sort of year round. And it isn't all on the presidency to where everything must be spoken from or flow from. There are senators, congressmen, state legislators, and local officials that we need to engage in accountability back in the community, and everybody needs to be engaged with voter participation, because it isn't the president that needs to be speaking about potholes in a neighborhood or blight, but those things are factors in a neighborhood, and we need to be knocking on the right door with the right request, and we need to, as publishers, put many of those things front and center.
Okay, let's do this. Calvin, how much time you got with us? I know you.
A little bit before I have to break away.
Okay. And so I'll ask. We got a guest in the waiting room.
Just bring them on. Okay. I can hold on for a little.
Okay. If we can now our next guest is a gentleman who has been a lightning rod here in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale, if I must say. But I also like to say, for more than enough, he's been on the side of Wright. Chris Nelson is coming in as a Republican for Harris. Okay, so let's bring on Chris Nelson. What's happening, Chris?
Hey, what's up, Bobby? Bobby Henry, David. It's so great to be with you guys. Bobby, you're somebody that I very much have grown to respect, and I appreciate you having me on. Yeah.
So, Chris, what's happening locally, man? Talk to us. What's going on here in Broward County as it pertains to this political atmosphere?
Well, I mean, it's pretty much everything that everybody has talked about. We're all just looking and looking for the results. And I hate to say that my support for Kamala Harris has certainly cost me friends. It's caused division in my family. Honestly, I wish I had just kind of kept it secret, but at the same time, I had to talk because I'm a 2-time Trump board voter, and I'm a lifelong Republican. and I voted for Donald Trump twice. And, I got to know you, Bobby, at the Broward School Board, and I didn't know really what to expect of you. But we've come down on the same side of many issues where there has been corruption and people lying and people with ulterior motives. And we've both come down, and I've found you to be a man that stands on the side of truth. And I mean, I'm very pro-life. And it really disturbs me that there are so many people that look at Donald Trump as some kind of religious figure, and they equate him with Jesus Christ and all these other things, and it's disturbing to me because this is a man that's not anything like Jesus Christ. And then I've been called pretty much every name you can imagine, because I mean, communist, oh geez, like you're cut out of my life, and all these other things, because I look at these two presidential candidates we have, and while I disagree with Kamala Harris on a lot of her policies, I do believe that she is faithful to her husband. She can speak in complete sentences. I trust her, and I have my trust in Donald Trump has been lost. He's betrayed that trust.
Hold that point. Chris, hold that point for a minute. Now let's talk. Derek, you've worked under several presidents. What Chris is saying, give us a little bit more from your perspective, how this what did Chris call him, this person?
Spoke the truth. I mean, respectful, I mean, devoted to their family, their wives.
Yeah.
Can complete a full sentence. I mean,
Yeah, all that is true. In addition to the fact that this is the first president that I know of in my lifetime that you had to question, did he love this country? We know he loves himself. We know he loves his billionaire buddies and making money. And we know Kamala Harris loves this man. She is the epitome of the American dream. And I disagree with her on several things too. But I don't disagree that she wants to protect democracy and cares about this country and people being able to exercise their right to vote and many other things. So yeah, I think, and I also would say that we're in bad shape if we don't have people on at least both sides of the aisle that are decent people, who are honorable people, who will stand up and challenge their party when they're wrong. And I, he had a bunch of sycophants in there with him, and a bunch of people who were, their whole issue was being anti-abortion people, and many of them were not trained, including people like Omarosa for the role that they held. So that was a lot of my issue with that party. Well, his administration, not the party.
Okay. And to both of you, Chris and Derek, we had some guests on the show last week, and they basically shared with us the steps to fascism, the steps on how dictators actually become dictators. And what we're seeing here is us getting too close to that, presenting that opportunity to an opponent. And for us not to take him at his word, I think it's one of the most idiotic things we can ever do when he's already presented himself as who he is and what he wants. Chris, what do you say?
I mean, well, you're dealing with something that we haven't really dealt with much in politics, where this guy says exactly what he thinks. He shoots off at the mouth all the time. And what really disturbed me was when he kept pronouncing his admiration for Chairman Xi of the Chinese Communist Party. And he was whining and complaining that he doesn't have the kind of power. And he was saying that, Hezbollah is filled with a lot of very smart people. And then he praises this guy from Hungary, Viktor Orban. He's like, I wish I could do this. It's like, I'm sorry, Mr. Trump, but we have a constitution in this country, and you swear an oath to follow it. And we don't elect a dictator. Actually, the president is the Article 2 branch. The Article 1 branch is Congress, as in we the people. And I pray that Kamala Harris wins this election. Because as much as I may disagree with her on certain policies, that she is a far better, that she will follow the Constitution better than Trump, and that if there is that there should be a balance of power. I'm a Republican. I'm a fan of Governor Ron DeSantis. Some of you may not like that, but I like what he did at the Broward School Board when he removed those 5 school board members. And he's done some good things down here. But I don't particularly like that we have this one party rule in Florida, where every Republicans control every house and the governor. We really need to have a balance of power. So there's a check on power. So I hope that there is a Democrat Congress if Trump, God forbid, he wins. Because what concerns me the most, Bobby, is a lot of these people, and you bring up Ted Cruz, who, oh, I hope he loses. I know Trump will probably put him on the Supreme Court if he wins, but Cruz is, and Rubio, these guys.
Well, don't say that, man.
I know. It's bad. But if there's a Democrat Congress, then they might be able to stop it. But these guys have become so arrogant, and they ran as conservatives. They ran as constitutional conservatives. But these days, they're just rubber stamps for Donald Trump, and they're afraid of him because he might go on Truth Social and start blasting them. So they're scared of him. We didn't have that in 2016. You had Republicans who were willing to stand up to Trump, and I'm actually very disappointed in Governor Ron DeSantis now, because he did stand up to Trump. He ran against him, but since he suspended his campaign, he's become sort of a lapdog for Trump, and he's not called him out on this crazy stuff he's pushing. And I'm very disappointed in the governor for that, because he has values. And I would much rather have, like, Georgia Governor Brian Kemp be our nominee again, if in the next Republican nominee, because he actually has had the guts to stand up to Trump more than DeSantis has. But a lot of these guys deserve to lose, and I would like to see a balance of power. And Elon Musk being behind Trump, the most rich man in the world, a man who was never behind Trump before, now suddenly is behind him. There's a lot of nefarious things going on behind the scenes that concern me a lot with this Elon Musk and Donald Trump relationship.
What was the term that you used? Sycophant? What is that word? They come rich ones too.
What, sycophant?
Yeah, there's some rich ones too.
Well, we have one of the richest women in the world making her impact here with the new owner of the Dallas Mavericks. And so people are saying what they have to say about that. You know, I would like to see something from the party. I like to see people first, and some of the decisions that are being made. And we can talk about whether people, you know, whether it's Roe v. Wade, and if we're just talking about abortion. And I'll tell you, in that respect, I guess I don't have a dog in that fight, because the chance of Roe v. Wade having any impact on me is Black history. But when we talk about, I look at other things, like I look at the death penalty, because I see, and I could have a conversation with you, and I just say, Chris, you have a friend, you may have lost some, and some were just there for the season, but you picked up a friend, okay? But I'm just saying, when we juxtapose abortion versus the death penalty, for example, and they say it was Shakespeare, they said a number of people, I'd rather see 1,000 guilty people go free than one innocent person be put to death. And we know the death penalty has put together a lot of innocent people. And in Dallas County, when you have over 30 people that have been in this century alone who have been exonerated, that tells you that something is wrong with our system. So there are a lot of things that need to be fixed. And I wish we could get past this party and deal with the people.
All right. Well, we're going to continue this conversation. We want to bring Mr. Brandon Freeny back on. He's one of the gentlemen that helped spearhead this. Brandon.
Yes,
come
sir.
on
Yes,
back
sir. I'm
in
so sorry
and-
about these technical difficulties.
Oh, okay. Come on in and join this conversation because we need your feedback on some of this dialogue. Have you been able to listen in?
I have been. I was, and he just got off. I was really interested to know kind of what, how does Chris essentially, I guess, go in between the fact that many of us felt like Ron DeSantis was really a mini version of Trump. So where does he find the line between those two to kind of have that sentiment to say, well, Ron DeSantis is a good governor, but he's opposed to Trump. So I kind of want to get his insight to see the differences in the two politicians. And so that was really one of the questions that I had in terms of the conversation that I was hearing.
Well, let me get out.
If I could, before you get into that, Calvin, if there's anything you need to say before you go, is it something that excuse me? Is it Calvin?
Calvin, if you can unmute, did you want to share any parting words with us? We know you have to move on.
Okay.
That means he's stuck. Okay. All right. Well, let's go ahead and
Get Chris.
Complete that conversation. Brandon, if you can repose that question again to Chris.
No, I was just interested in seeing, I guess it would be like, for me, maybe splitting hairs, but I just was interested because Chris seems like a good faith Republican. I just wanted to know some of the differences between the two people that many of us see as the same. I think that we would agree with the people that I see on the panel right now that these two individuals are very, very similar. So I was just interested because I've actually seen Chris on Twitter before, and I've respected some of the work, and as he says, he disagrees with Kamala on some things, and I disagree with him on some things, but I do see that he seems to be a good faith actor, and I'm asking this with all sincerity. I just kind of wanted to know the differences between the two candidates in your estimation. Well, not candidates, but two different Republicans in places of power.
Brandon, thanks for the question, and I appreciate your kind words. And first of all, Ron DeSantis does understand the Constitution. He's a constitutional attorney who worked in the JAG office. He understands how to work within a constitutional structure. And agree with him or not, you're going to get good faith out of him. And you might disagree with me on this, and that's okay. Sure. But he works within a constitutional system, and he doesn't do this sarcastic thing where everything's just a joke. And then, I say this, but I really mean that, or I don't. And he's not senile either. That's another thing. And it's very fascinating that the Republicans spent 4 years talking about how senile President Biden was, but right now they're running the most senile presidential candidate we've ever seen. And Ron DeSantis has been a formidable opponent to the Democrats in Florida. Absolutely. And I would really like to see a Democrat rise up who is a formidable opponent to Ron DeSantis, whether it be Jared Moskowitz or Jason Pizzo or Shevlin Jones. I mean, if he becomes the guy, I will.
Good friend of mine, actually.
For these guys, I'm hoping the Democratic Party of Florida rises up, and because our country really thrives on real competition between the Democrats put up their best and they argue in good faith effort. The Republicans put up their best. They argue in good faith effort. and then they can duke it out, and we can say, I'm pro-war over here, you're anti-war, I'm pro-abortion or pro-choice, you're pro-life, and we can really battle these things out on a plane of intellectual honesty. But we don't have that with Trump. With Trump, he just appeals to the lowest common denominator. He's basically like the WWF. Have you guys ever watched the WWF?
I liken him to Chris, if I could say. I liken him to like the Ric Flair of politics. That's why he has some appeal to some black individuals, because he has a rebellious spirit. But politics isn't the WWE, so I see exactly what you're saying.
But then when they get in, and who knows what Trump's going to do? All I know is that 60% of black-owned businesses were wiped out because of the way that Trump handled COVID. Okay, and that's a tragedy. But he has not reversed course on anything he did during COVID. Ron DeSantis fought his businesses to be open, and he actually was having to work against Trump the way. But I believe that Ron DeSantis has a moral core, and whether you agree with him or not, believe me, he gets sometimes. I'll tell you what I don't like about Ron DeSantis. He specifically excludes certain Democrats from things. And I think that's rather vindictive. I wish he wouldn't do that.
Hold tight for a minute, Chris. We're getting a lot of feedback.
Okay, I think they got it.
Well, somebody's unmuted and they have their TV on.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're better.
So it's okay. We with this kind of an election going on right now.
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
Probably interested in the results. It's getting close to 7. But the Democrats need to have a real coming to Jesus moment and realize, why is it that Florida has gone from a toss-up state to a solid red state? And I would say it's because of Ron DeSantis's leadership during COVID. And he spent a lot of time in the culture wars, which now reflecting on it, I think was political capital that was possibly wasted, because I think that the national debt is a much more pressing matter than cartoon porn and books and school libraries. When kids have cell phones that they can look at whatever the heck they want, and I just think there's a lot more pressing issues that are affecting children more than these trans stuff and library books. But this is me looking in hindsight. I mean,
and Chris, I anytime you pick a fight with Mickey, that really shows me just where you stand. And so I mean, I agree with you on one account about what he did at the Broward County School Board. You and I both we agree to that. But I think that's.
Yeah, Chris, I don't know how you explain, though. He cost hundreds of thousands of lives in Florida with his unwillingness to, and in fact, he suppressed all the true COVID numbers and got rid of the lady who wanted to report them. And what's this about his attack on DEI and teaching Black history? How do you explain that?
The diversity, equity, and inclusion stuff, that was stuff that was really pushed to the forefront on social media. And unfortunately, a lot of that stuff trickled down to DeSantis, who is not on social media, but he has people on social media. And as you know, one of the main problems us conservatives have now been up against are these social media influencers who have, like, libs of TikTok. Have you heard of libs of TikTok? These people that have come out of nowhere, and if you look into their histories, they have long histories of being Democrat. and being of the other party. And they have been pushing a narrative. And there are certain things, okay? Like hiring somebody based on race, I don't think is a good idea. But there has been a lot of things that have pushed its way to the top. And then DeSantis, I think he feels like he has to react to this. And I believe that there were places that his energy would have been better spent than fighting these certain battles. But I do believe he had good intent with it. But I don't think that he was right.
You are so diplomatic in your response, and I can appreciate that. I guess for me, no, you don't hire someone because of their race, but for so long, people have not been hired because of their race. And then now, as I look at what the workforce has done and what COVID has done to it, if you can just find somebody who wants to work, you're doing good. So you better hire them. And that's one of the challenges that we have. I hate that I have to bounce, but I have the basketball coach of Florida A&M University is in town, and I said I would come and show love because I know Florida is not a basketball state, but I come from Jersey, and we are, and I support FAMU all the way. And then I have to do another show, but I love what the West Side Gazette is doing, and I talk about it across this country, and I love the conversation, and thanks for having me. And I just say we have to keep it going. We have to keep having those conversations, and we have to have people on who can make sense out of a conversation. Like Chris, and you have to admit, some of your people get on and they're like cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Okay. And see, and I can tell you, and if you go to Texas Metro News, you will see that every cover of our paper since Kamala was announced has had her on the front page. Because and we tried to tell the story of her to educate her. Because for me, I like what all you said about having a Kamala as the president, and I could say no, I don't agree with everything she does, but heck, on a good day, I don't agree with everything I say. I'm going to get off and say I shouldn't have said that. So we disagree with ourselves, but I want a kinder and gentler and more productive country, that we're not the laughing stock. When I worked for BBC when Trump ran last time. We worked for months preparing for the election, and election night the next day I thought I wouldn't have to work. We had to get rid of everything because guess what? BBC thought that Hillary was going to win. And everything that we did was tied to it. They did not think, they said, we did not think you all would be stupid enough to vote Donald Trump in. And he won. So we have a lot of work to do, but it's time out for calling names, for putting people down, for having the hatred and everything that we have in this country. And a lot of it is being fueled by Donald Trump.
Cheryl, before you go, make sure you tell that basketball coach if we are voting for more than 1 year on this contract. We need to have him at least 3 years. So tell him we are. Tell him we stand with him on that.
Definitely. Everyone, I hope we can be smiling like this tomorrow.
Yes, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Cheryl. God bless. Okay.
All right. Now, I know we've talked a bit about our governor, but I think we might want to kind of refocus on the agenda for tonight and kind of let's go back mainstream. But before we go there, Chris, I really appreciate you coming on and sharing that honesty. Even though, again, there are many of us here that's not agreeing to some of the tactics that our governor has fallen into in his governance. And one other thing that I just have a major issue with, and this is most red states, is just allowing the help, allowing the Medicaid and the funds to come in and support people that need help. And I just think from a humanitarian spirit, so much of the Republican Party are just not feeling people. I mean, in some cases, they're not showing humanity. Chris, what can you say to that?
Well, listen, there's been a real coldness, and the Bible says in the end, towards the end, hearts will grow cold, and there's been a real coldness going on. I'll liken it to this: my cat got out last night, and he likes to run around and he likes to have his little adventures, but I think he got into a little scrap with a raccoon or something last night. And somebody called me and said, we have your cat. So I came and rescued him and I brought him back, and he had some scraps on him, and we're nursing him back to health. But we live in a cold world, and we don't need more coldness. And I remember criticizing President George W. Bush for the compassionate conservative, but that won 2 elections for him. And we need to have compassion. If you look at Jesus and you look at what he did when he was here on this earth, he didn't get too involved in politics, but most of his ministry, 1/3 of his ministry, was actually healthcare, was helping people. And we've grown so cold today. And I don't like how my party, the Republican Party, has grown cold. I mean, there's some times where you need tough love, but we're getting these lectures from these social media stars like Charlie Kirk and Jack Posobiec, who make millions of dollars a year from Russia. We learned that this money that's paying these guys is coming from Russian oligarchs, and nobody cares. And they just laugh it off. Oh, Russia, Russia, Russia. Oh, it's more of this fake news against Trump. Everything's this giant joke. Well, they're living in luxury. There are people out there that are really, truly struggling. On the Democrat side, there's not been enough compassion about the inflation and the rising costs. And you see with the exit polls that a lot of people are saying that rising costs and inflation, which, by the way, Donald Trump added $8 trillion.
Thank you.
He is just as much to blame for these rising costs as Biden is. As in fact, he is more to blame for it. And I wish that Kamala, and I told people that know her people to really hone in on this and hit him on this inflation, that he ran up the debt. And she even shared some Ron DeSantis clips from when he was running for president against Trump talking about it. But I think she could have capitalized more on this because she was vice president. She could distance herself from Joe Biden and say that I would not have signed these bills into law. The inflation should be pinned directly on Donald Trump and his decisions that he made in 2020. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, but hopefully that she still wins. But there needs to be more compassion on both sides, and focus on a world where there's peace, there's love and harmony, no war. And that world is really something that we need. And that will open the hearts of people and voters. So, and I get it, Ron DeSantis is a Navy man. He's a military man. But me, I'm not. So I don't really respond. I like the fact that he has the military discipline. But a warmer, more compassionate person who really truly helps people, and he does with the hurricanes. You really see it with the hurricanes with Ron DeSantis, how he really he's a solid rock. I mean, he knows how to run the government, get the bridges built, get these things back up, get people back to their lives. I don't think anybody can argue with that. But what's really missing in today's discourse is compassion. But in this race between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris, I have certainly seen a lot more compassion for human beings from Kamala than I have from Donald Trump.
Thank you so much, Chris. Guys, we right past the top of the hour, so it's 7:06. Polls are closed.
Yep. I'm looking at
Polls are
results.
closed.
I'm looking at some results.
So
here.
we're going to start looking at some of these reports that are coming through now. And I kind of want to get some feedback, Derek, Brandon, you guys. Brandon, you kind of given us your pick on things. Derek, you want to go ahead and chime in now that we're past the 6 o'clock hour?
Well, yeah, I mean, we can expect that Trump will certainly be up early. And the question is, all the early voting that the Republicans did that drain away from their day of voting or not? And so I think that Kamala will be catching up as the evening goes on, particularly because she has surged in these last 10 days. I think her closing message was much clearer and more succinct than his, because he and his people were talking about Puerto Ricans and calling, her, saying, take out the trash with her. I mean, and just as Chris was saying, I think many of Americans, particularly mainstream Republicans in particular, the people in that movable middle, or even not even movable, but kind of have drawn really tired of all the acrimony, all the disdain and the divisiveness. And so I think that that's going to show up. But I'm looking right now, Florida, 30% reporting. Donald Trump has 50.9%. I'm surprised it's not a lot higher than that right now. And Georgia's at 54%, but Georgia is only reporting 1% and says Florida 30%. And looking at the AP numbers right now. So yeah, I'd love to hear more at some point. Got to come back because I'd love to hear Chris what his issue was with Bush's compassionate capitalism. I thought that was a very interesting comment.
Yes, because like he said, it did get him elected twice. So
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you, one of the things that, of course, I worked for Bush for 8 years, but some of the things that he did do, I'll tell you a couple things. He initiated a program called Grandparents Raising Grandchildren, and particularly in our communities, where our children, sons or daughters, may be strung out or any number of things, incarcerated, and we are raising their children. And so there was a program, something else called a Healthy Marriage Initiative, which, because of there are too many people, unfortunately, in our communities who don't have examples of healthy marriages. And so you were teaching and exposing people to certain things like that. And another thing was a program really aimed at supporting the families of incarcerated people. And so that was his compassionate capitalism. And of course, we know he screwed some things up, but that to me was some of the element that you don't see in some of too much of the Republican Party right now.
Yeah. And his wife played a large role in
His wife
life as well.
was really, she was quality people,
Yes.
No question.
Yeah. Brandon, what say you, my brother? It's past the 7 o'clock hour. We're at 7:10. The numbers are starting to come in. Phones are starting to close. What's ticking on your TikTok over there? I think you're muted.
Okay, I'm sorry about that. No, I'm seeing some of these counties come in the state of Florida, Osceola and Duval, and right now Kamala is trailing the Biden numbers right now. But what you have seen prior to today in terms of some early voting and things of that nature is that, and then in terms of some of the things you see on the ground, like in places like the villages that are known to be really, really red in terms of the older community, in terms of some of these Republicans that were probably Herbert Walker Bush or Reagan, or some of those individuals, and some of these individuals that might have voted for Nikki Haley, they have seemed to really resonate with the big tent message that Kamala is bringing. So I really hope that with the excited base and those that are looking at Kamala as a historic figure. The culmination of all these things, getting some of those soft Republicans, the energy, the moderate Democrats, and some that are a little further to the left by the end of the night, I think all these things are going to come together. And I think we'll end up smiling because of these forces that are unlikely alliances to bring about the first female president.
Right, Brandon, you mentioned Nikki Haley, and I heard some commentators speaking earlier today saying she's really the X factor in this election. Her not going against Trump. What are your thoughts if she would have gone against Trump? Would you think she would have drawn a lot of support over to the Harris team, and would that have sealed the deal?
I think when you look at especially places like in Pennsylvania, when she was not even on the ballot, how she drew so much support, not even being on the ballot. I'm not even sure if at this point in time, because she's been so lukewarm, that the things that she's saying
Starting route to 1134 Northwest 6th Street.
Are affecting her
Head
voters.
north on
I think a
Northwest
lot of her
7th
voters
Terrace. Then take the first left onto Northwest 6th Street.
Are making protest votes since the Republican primary, and I think that the Harris campaign has done an incredible job in terms of trying to bring these people in and let them know they're welcome. They've created a permission structure with a lot of different Republicans, whether it be someone as far as a Dick Cheney and a Liz Cheney to a closer to Jeff Duncan and an Adam Kinzinger and all these other individuals. So you're looking at the spectrum of the Republican Party, and her herself. I think that her voters are just in a place to say, whether you support or endorse Donald Trump or not, we're sick of him, and you don't even have to be on the ballot, Ms. Haley. We're going to vote for Kamala Harris anyway, because we'll vote for you and you're not even on the ballot. And thinking about, I think that there are two issues that are competing in this election, and that would be on the Republican side, the immigration, and then on the other side is abortion. And I do believe, because we have more women in this country, and they usually tend to vote more than men, and that Nikki Haley voter wanting to probably possibly support just, based upon gender and some other things, and not liking the way that women have been treated, not only in terms of having their rights taken away, but the way they're being spoken to throughout this campaign. I just really, really think that her voters are going to come, some of them are going to come to this side.
Okay. Right. Well, we're going to continue to monitor these election results.
I just seen
tight Senate race in Florida.
Yeah, Debbie. I think Debbie has done a good job in many ways, but I felt like they should have put a lot more money behind her, because I believe Rick Scott was pretty vulnerable. And if they had a more exciting candidate, let's say like I don't know, as some of the people that Chris mentioned, maybe a Jared Moskowitz or Chevron Jones, another Andrew Gillum or Val Demings, I think he could have been picked off. But I also think that Debbie has the demographic advantage of being Hispanic. And it seems to be that some of the Cubans down there are receptive to some of her messaging. So we may be able to do better in Miami-Dade this time around. And hopefully that works out. But I think if they would have poured more money into Debbie's race, we would be looking at a situation where we could have picked off that Senate seat. So
well, she ran some great ads, though. I got to give her credit.
Okay. I didn't see any in black newspapers.
Well, then that's a problem.
Yeah, I didn't see.
That's absolutely a problem.
Yeah.
But the snake got a lot of attention.
Yeah, that's all well and good, but I didn't see any. So when you mentioned earlier, Brandon, about they could have dumped a whole lot more money in the right places where to make people feel like they were inclusive.
Absolutely, and then just dig into essentially tying Rick Scott to a lot of the Trump rhetoric. I think they would have done a lot better, and then especially in our community, because we do have a disdain for Donald Trump, and then we have to look at the things in terms of Rick Scott with his Medicare fraud and things of that nature. We've had him as a governor and now as a senator. I believe that there was some enthusiasm and some more funding she would have had an amazing opportunity to go ahead and win this race, and hopefully she still does. I think she has an outside shot, just like I think Kamala has an outside shot to win this, to win the state. And if that happens, we're gonna have a very, very early night, because if either of these states that are pretty much long shots but have been discussed, either if Texas or Florida goes for Kamala, it's almost mathematically impossible for Trump to win this race. So, hopefully we can have one of those surprises, and things will be, like I said, a very, very early night.
As somebody said earlier, that whichever way it goes, we got work to do.
Absolutely.
And sure, coming from our perspective, from our community, we are as disjointed as a contortionist. I mean, we're not. We're hey man, we all over the place. So.
Indeed.
So Derek,
I mean, we so all over the place, Bobby, and again. Okay.
No, go ahead, Brandon.
So what, we ragging it in a mango seed?
Okay, yeah. I just want to say something real simple.
Falling apart like a scarecrow.
Simple at the local level. Like I had a friend of mine. Okay. Yeah, I was just saying, we're disjointed, and even at the local level, I had a friend of mine give me a call, and she said, "Brandon, if we're gonna do this voting thing, going back to what you just said, Bobby, we got to be united." So you see these flyers and these packs locally that you get bombarded and attacked at the polls. You see that, you would think, and again, I don't want to ruffle no feathers or nothing like that, but you would think that the Black Democratic Caucus and the NAACP will have very, very similar stances on some of the amendments and things of that nature. And from what they told me, now this is just speculation, that they didn't even have the same recommendations as it related to some of the candidates and some of the amendments. And even at that level, that we would think that if you are the NAACP or you the Black Democratic Caucus down here in South Florida, that we would at least have unity amongst things of that nature. So I think that's to your point, Bobby, about us being disjointed. And I'm not sure if that offends anybody, but it just becomes one of those things where we see groups that we would feel like should be aligned. We don't have that alignment.
Yeah. This is a jump start for us too. I mean, win, lose, or draw. We have to. There's no ifs, ands, and we have to come together. And that's our organizations, that's us personally, individually. We got work to do. Yeah, some of us have been scarred. Some of us have scarred, So we all are guilty at one point or another. So now is the time for us to move forward. And you mentioned, Brandon, ruffling the feathers. Feathers are a sense of protection. And some of these folks ain't got no feathers. So how can you ruffle what you ain't got?
I definitely hear you on that.
So one of my main questions here recently is the buy-in. Are Black folks really sold out as far as their Americanism? Are we truly Americans and dedicated to this entire political system? Yes, we've served in all of the wars. Yes, we've suffered probably the most of any group of people here in the Americas. But are we really all sold out in this political process? Are we vested? Are we willing to continue to live and die for our crops in America? Eric, what do you think?
A lot of young people. So I have 3 children, 30 something, and 2 in the young 40s, and a couple of them at least. I think there is this real disillusionment, real disdain for our political system at this point in time. And I can understand it in the sense of they've seen such cheating, they've seen such inequality in terms of like how Trump is treated versus how the average person is treated, and so, but my encouragement to them and to the rest of us is participate in the system while you build whatever it is you think we need to have on the side, whatever's better, whatever is complementary, whatever can ultimately replace it, because I don't think we can abrogate our responsibility again because of so much that people have sacrificed to get us the right to vote. And it is a flawed system. I remember when they participated in disadvantaging Bernie Sanders in favor of Hillary Clinton in terms of giving her the answers on the CNN, one of the big CNN interviews. So those things are real, but I don't think we can just, I would say, throw the baby out with the bathwater. But let's do something else. But we can. It's almost like, and Bobby, you certainly probably old enough to remember this, and the same with Brother Rolock, who just left. I mean, when I know my generation was probably really the first that had the opportunity to kind of go to school wherever you had the grades, et cetera, et cetera. But most of us had to work at the same time, so we can chew gum and walk at the same time. There's more, and again, if we haven't helped our children and our children's children understand that, then I think that's a problem that we have. And somebody talked
Yes.
about that being 200 years ago. Hell, it was 60 years ago. We couldn't go sit at the lunch counter. You couldn't
Right.
get on the. We're not talking about that long ago. I remember when
No,
my parents couldn't
No.
vote, so we're not
No.
talking that long ago.
No. But I agree with you, Brother Gary. It's been on us. We have to share that experience with our young folks, our children. Um, we have to let them know, as well as listen now to why they may be distant from the process, why they don't want to engage, and be there to help encourage them that nothing good will ever come out of your absence, your
Yes.
non-participation.
Yes.
No, absolutely. I think that when you ask the question, it's been one thing that I discussed being somebody that's so heavily involved in marketing and understanding branding and media. I know as a young man, sometimes I've been disillusioned in this process when I was a little younger. And one of those things that I constantly noticed was what was being projected as what an American was, what was being projected as what a patriot was. And because I didn't resonate with the pickup truck and the Trump flag, I kind of distanced myself from those things. But then I realized that this is nothing but the hijacking of what an American is, and in some instances, in terms of using the terms conservative or pro-life, these are just hijacking of these terms, because you cannot be pro-life and be okay with police brutality. You cannot be pro-life and think that it is okay to pollute the environment. You cannot be pro-life in these situations. What you are is anti-abortion, and we've allowed them to hijack these words. And so when I look at us, and it just happened a few months ago, the spirit and the enthusiasm behind how we look at the Olympics, when we see us at our best, Black folks go crazy as it relates to track and field and basketball and gymnastics, and they're proud to be an American because we understand athletic competition. And I think if the education was instilled in us in terms of having some political literacy, as Americans, we would feel the exact same way when we understood the tangibles and how these things affected us, because I can see that American spirit in one sense, and I know it can be instilled in another. So I think that we just have to be careful in terms of the labels that we allow people to put us on, when they try to make it seem like it's a false dichotomy to me when you make it pro-choice or pro-life, when life actually just starts at birth. It doesn't end there, and that's a different conversation. So I slightly give them the nod when I say they're a pro-birth party, but I usually like to say it's anti-abortion, because when it comes to being pro-life, you have to be pro-educating individuals, because we know at the end of the day, education lifts people out of poverty. We know at the end of the day, education leads to crime prevention. But Republicans sometimes don't seem to see the value in funding education. So how is that a pro-life party? And so I just believe we have to be very careful as it relates to these titles, because I know I got caught in that, not wanting to call myself or distance myself from being a patriot, but I'm absolutely a patriot. I'm absolutely an American, because the people before me fought for rights not only to vote, but to live, to be able to start a business, to be able to do the things that I want to do and have the freedom to do it. And so, I sit in this space as a proud American, someone in the at this point in time in my life, because I understand what that means. Malcolm X is a patriot. Donald Trump is a militant, and we have to be clear on that.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be very clear on that. And what we're not clear on sometimes, because we allow the media to set the narrative and the tone, and then we defend from their perspective. And I'm just someone that's tired of doing that, and I'm not going to allow you to tell me that you're pro-life when you're absolutely not. Because when it comes to the living and the things that we do as human beings and Americans, Republicans seem not to care if it doesn't turn a dollar. You're not pro-life, again, in healthcare and things of that nature, if you want to put profits over people. That is not a pro-life position. And so we've allowed that narrative to sit for far too long, and there's now got the American lexicon, and we've allowed them to keep that space. But I, for one, am not somebody that's going to allow it. And I might have mentioned this to Chris if we could have had a further conversation, but he said he was pro-life, and I'm not saying that not. But oftentimes, when people say they're pro-life, they're only referring to abortion.
Mm-hmm.
Very disingenuous. That is very narrow-minded. So I am actually pro-life and I am pro-choice. I'm not necessarily pro-abortion, but if that's what because that is her body, I am pro her making that way.
Mm-hmm.
I am also pro-life because all the things that I am against. I am against officers executing people before they have to be in court.
Yeah. So Brandon, we're losing your audio, Brandon. Okay. So I don't know if you can adjust that. I know when you get fired up, man, those frequencies start to fluctuate.
Yeah.
It's hard to EQ all them emotions, man.
Yeah. I hope y'all got the gist of it. I really do.
Absolutely.
We're honing in on some local elections, and man, I'm kind of shocked at what I'm seeing. Some of the people in local races.
Yeah. 60% in on the Senate race, and Scott is 53% to Marcus Powell 46%. This is just here in the state of Florida. But we know that the early votes, the early turnouts were primarily Republicans. So we're looking on the later numbers.
I'm speaking like local, like Jabbo Martin.
Well,
and what y'all think about that race, Bobby? Jabbo and East Grant.
Hey man, it's like I said, I'm surprised that she got 63%. He has 38.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I'm totally. Not only that, there are a couple of other ones. One of our seasoned politicians, Lori Parrish, is getting beat.
Well, she's out in
yeah, but that
the ranches.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I mean it's
she's seen her thing. I was surprised to see her still in running.
Yeah. But nevertheless, man, it's like the football bounces differently.
Yeah. So some of the races here in Florida, the local races, I think we may have a few upsets, but at the same time, they're early, but they're right at the 60-50% mark, which in most races it's kind of hard to catch up after you're down with half of the votes here. Depending on the numbers, how close it is. I can see if it's a point or two, but
I see
3 and 4 points. It's
Mayor Fort Lauderdale is in a tight race too, but he's winning.
Yeah.
Have Bobby has the paper ever got into? It's just a question. Ever got into endorsing local candidates in terms of like using the paper's apparatus to say you support one candidate over another in a city council or county race or anything like that? Is that something that you've done publicly?
To answer your question, Brandon, yes.
Okay.
We have here lately, and this is, and I should have. That's when the board was real active.
Okay.
It wasn't just me, because my personal feelings get tied up, So, but to answer your question, yes, and that's something for us to. Again, this election, excuse me, is a learning process right here, right now. It's like it's a brand new day either way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have to tighten up on our A game. What some of the things we used to do, we definitely can't do them anymore. And some of the bridges that we didn't cross, we may have to cross those bridges and understand, like Chris said, Chris and I don't agree with everything, right? But when we were down at the school board fighting, we seemed to be on the same side. Chris was one of the people who wore a T-shirt and said we need to quarantine Bertha Henry.
Oh wow!
That was during the COVID, right? Her administration allowed people to continue to work and have jobs, right? And so DeSantis wanted to come in and just wreak havoc, but thanks to some of the commissioners and Bert and her staff, they didn't. They worked through it. Yeah. But Chris Nelson had a T-shirt that said "Quarantine Bertha Henry." Now I've never met him. Down at the school board, when I came home and told my wife, I met this guy, and she said, "Do you know who that?" So nevertheless, it's two opposites that found some middle ground, and I think that's what we're going to have to do after this election. So,
No, absolutely, and that's why I'm forging this alliance with someone that's probably similar to Chris in some ilk. I'm not sure if Rich is claiming the Republican flag at this point, but I know Chris is. But you know, I really think it's important to have those relationships and to coalesce and through that culmination of, you know, difference of opinion in certain things, you have some core things that are absolutely common sense. We should definitely come together on those things to see if we can find that common ground and make some things happen, you know, with people that we would ordinarily disagree with, you know, and I think that now that I've found the source of some of the things that we've discussed in terms of, you know, the support for MAGA, that will be going forward to get those brothers back on this side to see what we can do collectively, locally, in order to do some of the things that we're talking about. Which is get to work immediately. But if we having, you know, differences of opinion, it's very difficult to do that.
Yeah, share with Derek, if you will, Brandon. Rick. Rich.
Yeah, Rich, absolutely. Yeah. So
give a brief synopsis of that.
Yeah, so I'm not sure, Derek, if you took a look at the Democratic National Convention on day one, there was this gentleman. Played on the big screen, wasn't an elected official, but he discussed this story as someone that was essentially leaving MAGA after being a part of it for about 6 years. He wrote for some of the right-wing publications, and he was really, really deep into it. He volunteered. He wrote some of the call script that the people were using when they phone bank. So he was really somebody that was involved. And at some point, he just figured after COVID, after January 6th, that he was going to leave MAGA. And now his whole thing is he's going to do more for Kamala to get her elected than he did for Trump in 2016. And so that unlikely alliance has become something, because my entire thing this election season has been to reach out to Black Trump supporters. And so because he's trying to give Trump supporters a safe place to go and to say a permission structure to vote for Kamala and or just leave MAGA, we have found our place in some, you know, some synergy there. It is a very, very unique relationship. And because now I understand the source of some of this disillusionment with some of our Black brothers and some sisters, I think that I can better understand and attack the issue, because I have somebody that lived it, breathed it, wasn't just a Trump supporter in terms of a voter, but he's seen this as his identity. This was his second family that sometimes got put in front of his first family. So when you kind of speak to somebody that now puts their political ideology, it's something that's embedded in their soul. It's a little different than voting Democrat is somebody that I do. I don't walk around saying I'm a Democrat. The first thing I say is I'm a man of God. I'm the son of Kim and Alvin Freeny. My identity is tied up in me being American, not being a Democratic voter. But that's different with Trump supporters. Their identity is wrapped up in MAGA. And so it's hard to peel people away from that when you really don't understand the core of where they're coming from. And so because Rich is giving that insight, It's slightly deeper than just dealing with Democrat and Republican. So
Is
it's
he
a
local? Is he there in Florida?
Yes, he's in
Yeah.
Deerfield. He's in the same county as us. Yes.
Okay, so you gonna work with Enrique Torres next?
I'm not sure who that is.
So he was the head of the Proud Boys. I
Proud
mean,
Boys.
yeah, the head. Yeah, the one that got the
Oh yeah.
stiffest sentence of all.
The Afro
Yeah.
Latino guy. He's the black
Yes.
dude, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I see you. I see you smiling there, Derek. Come on, fill us in. Bring some more. Come on.
Just the
You
fact that
got
I mean,
but there's hope.
there is
I
hope.
don't.
No,
Yeah,
I think that's beautiful, and you're right, because I mean, who could speak to those folk better than he could? Because he was a true disciple. It's like, it's like Saul after the
Paul.
road to Damascus. So that's beautiful. I'm gonna have to go and research him now.
Yeah, leavingmaga.org. And then, and again, I never want to be offensive on the platform, but the thing about it, sometimes us as black people, we think white people's water is a little wetter than ours. So sometimes when we say things in terms of black men hearing from Democrats all the time, hey man, that MAGA support is a little crazy. I think hearing from a white man saying, I don't think this brand of politics is for me, and so it's definitely not from you, it may resonate just a little bit different because I can't speak from the perspective of ever being a MAGA supporter. And so he can, and I've just seen that sometimes that works. And that's an unfortunate fact, but it's something strategic nonetheless that will be utilized to get our people to where I feel like they need to be.
It's beautiful.
So still some results coming in throughout the East Coast. We have about another 25 minutes before the Central Time poll closes at 8 o'clock. But things are kind of up in the air. Again, a lot of the early numbers are showing.
Things are looking good in North Carolina, David.
I'm looking at that. Yeah, I'm looking at that. North Carolina and Georgia now are counting, and there are certain regions in North Carolina that are voting well for Harris, and that's a state that could very well be flipping, I think, this time around.
Yeah, because if that can be picked off in terms of North Carolina, I think with everything else that Biden won, she could even lose Pennsylvania at that point and just win Nevada and win and be at like about 270.
We really want to win Pennsylvania, though.
Yeah, just to keep it
safe.
And
his crew up
absolutely, because that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. But Iowa, Iowa came into play.
I was just
here
about
recently.
to say that. Yeah, very respected Republican pollster who said that the trends are saying that these moderate Republicans are leaving Donald Trump there, and that would be huge. Dems haven't won Iowa since. Well, they did win it under Barack, but not since.
Yeah, it's been some time.
But women over 65, they say.
Yeah, the granny crew. Yeah,
almost over 70%.
I think going back to the Roe v. Wade point, those women fought for those rights, and so they don't want to see their daughters and their granddaughters not have the same rights that they had, and so that's why I said this election is coming down to, in many ways, I believe, two issues: one on one side being abortion, and the other being immigration. If we just look in high level things of that nature, when you see white women that have traditionally voted Republican saying, "No, I got to go with the other team this time."
And a surprising thing, I was watching in Philly, the very long lines in Philly just before I came down. And believe it or not, because the Republicans wanted to kind of poo-poo the democracy issue, but a lot of those young people, and that's mostly what was in line, saying that democracy is important and needs to be protected. And so, but interesting thing, another thing I saw a couple of days ago, all these young women who were 12 years old or whatever when the Access Hollywood thing came out on Trump, and all of the things he was saying, grab them and this, that, and the other. And they're sitting there. They showed these two young girls, one black and one white, and they're watching this, and they're looking in disbelief at each other as they're hearing this. And it was more than what we'd heard previously. And then one of them ended up writing something on one of the social media platforms that had something like 60 million views, because and she said something like, we need to ask our dad, how can you vote for this guy knowing what he did? They said, was this out before the election? So yeah, there's a lot at stake here.
Yeah, one of the things I just posted was to say, this same group and these same men will be very, very quick to call Kamala Harris out of her name with some of the things that happened with Willie Brown, but they'll put on a cape and defend the sexual predator. And that is very, very unfortunate that we've come to a place where it seems like character doesn't matter. And character always has to matter at the end of the day. Character is a part of decision making. And the decisions that Trump has made during his administration, especially with his mismanagement of COVID, you look at a country like Canada that had a 40% better death rate as it relates to that. If we would have just been anywhere near close to that, 1 million people died. So let's just say we did 20% better. That's 200,000 people that's still alive. But because this man's character is so flawed in so many different ways, we have somebody making decisions based on saying things like it's the Kung flu and it's a Chinese host and it's something that Democrats have done because he wants to play political games, but he'll turn around and tell Bob Woodward he knows how bad it is. And then now we're dealing with people losing not only their jobs but their lives. I just don't understand in many ways how the economy or any other issue for that matter could be more important than someone's actual character, because those are the decisions that are going to have to be made under anybody's administration, and you don't know what's going to happen in the next 4 years. The next big issue might be AI and the displacement of jobs, and because he's a Republican and he don't care about people, he may not do anything to slow that down, that displacement. We have no idea what's coming down the pipe. And not to consider character while making a decision for something so important is really, really disheartening for me. Really, it is.
But Barack left him a pandemic
Absolutely.
playbook. He threw it out, disbanded the office. In fact, our executive officer was part of all those meetings, because they knew it was coming. And so what did he say? He said, well, people are dying. It is what it is. So we needed a Churchill, but we had Donald Trump. And so, yeah.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm going to have,
Sure. Before, okay. Eric, we got to have you back, because we didn't even scratch the surface of what you bring to the table. So I would love for you to come back.
Absolutely. You tell me when, and I'll do it. As I told you, Bobby, I'm also a product of the Black press. I was a reporter and an editor at the Atlanta Daily World for probably a total of 6 years in the 80s and in the 90s. So this has been beautiful. And thank you all for this rich comment. Brandon, grab my stuff out of that chat room and reach out to me. Definitely.
No, absolutely, man. Absolutely. I love to connect with individuals that I feel are like-minded in the fight. So I'll definitely go ahead and make sure I get that information.
And Bobby, thank you. David, thank you all for the opportunity to come on. And I got this one at 8 o'clock, which so excited about it. But we'll all be watching and praying together tonight, won't we?
Absolutely, my man. Okay.
All right. Love you, brothers.
Love you too, brother. Thank you. Thank you.
Be safe there. Be safe.
God bless.
We got a few viewers chiming in.
Yeah, we got a problem. One viewer, and that's from Cincinnati Herald. That's Walter White. Walter is trying to come on. He's one of the publishers. He was having some difficulties. So if we could respond to that question, Walter. He asked earlier, was there anyone else experienced sound issues? And I see that Miss McCleary was having an issue as well. So I guess it must have worked this stuff out. Okay. So preferably we'll be having Mr. Walter White on from the Cincinnati Herald out of Cincinnati, Ohio.
Yeah.
From the nasty.
So it's a race going on up there too for Senate with Sherrod Brown
Mm-hmm.
and Benny, I think Moreno, and Sherrod has been a Democrat holding on in Red Ohio. So hopefully he can pull it off so we can stay close to contention to keeping the Senate. Because if he doesn't win, we already know that Joe Manchin's seat is going to be taken in West Virginia. If John Tester loses in Montana, we're going to have a problem. And then now we be looking at races like if the guy in Nebraska, I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, his name is Dan Osborne. He's running as an independent, but he has Democratic leanings, so we can use him like an Angus King or Bernie Sanders. But yes.
In 15 minutes, somebody from Omaha, Nebraska would be chiming in. Kerry Sanders, publisher of the Omaha Star News.
And they have their
daughter
one
is Simone
congressional seat. Yeah, that one delegate that they have in that area. So, you know, it's a lot of I guess interesting storylines going on during this election. Especially if we want to keep the Senate, and Sherrod Brown has been a real progressive champion. He's very quiet, but he has that real strong, deep voice and draw. He's been a very, very good senator in my opinion. And hopefully he can hold on to that seat.
Yeah. Well, they're projecting Trump to win in West Virginia, but let's hope he can keep Joe's seat, even though he kind of felt like a Republican sometimes to me. But Brandon, we talked earlier, and you basically shared with us that the two opposing factors in this particular race were the abortion side and the immigration side. Being here in America, I would say what, about 90% of us are immigrants. But my figures could be a little off, but other than the indigenous natives, we all came from somewhere else. Well,
indeed.
So I mean, this push for I understand structured immigration, but how can you have such disdain for anybody who's trying to come here, even after we built Ellis Island and the Statue of Liberty is basically calling for your tired, your weak, it's literally asking people to come here. Now, when we look at the job market and some of the migrant work that nobody else wants to do, that feeds 70% of America
or more. There was a conversation I was having, and in the conversation, the person was saying that the borders are wide open. Everybody's coming in. We can't get a job. We have no, the welfare is being taken. Just it's a bunch of misinformed information being presented. And I took offense because we were the same people that they said the same thing about us. Yeah, but it was one of us talking.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's been the part of the story is the people that are from other countries that have finally gotten their citizenships are some of the most adamant, proponents for this border wall. Brandon, I know you heard some of that, but that prelude to that, the early part of the question, what are some of your thoughts? And is it all based in racism, or is it just that? And here's what Bobby was just basically saying: how can other immigrants be against new immigrants coming to America?
That's what Cheryl was saying. Is a Mexican telling the other Mexicans to go back across the border?
I mean, it seems to me that we've come to a place, as Chris mentioned, to be so very cold. So now that we have our part of the pot, in that sense, we don't want anybody else to have it. And in a land of abundance, I believe, in terms of this country, There is enough for everybody, but that's not the sentiment of those that oppose legal immigration, and it's just very, very unfortunate that many of us are falling into this trap. Given the mere fact of what you said, that most of us all come from those similar circumstances, and now when other people want the same opportunity, actually to boost our economy in many ways, if we look at the situation in spring, we know that those jobs were not being done by the locals, and now that those people have integrated themselves into that community, which a lot of those Midwestern communities become ghost towns when their manufacturing plants close, and it's the one of the largest employers in those said cities. For those individuals to be treated as if they are now some degenerates, or they are blight or a stain on a community that they're helping uplift, is just really unfortunate that people have fallen into this idea of hating those because they feel like they're taking from them. And that's just kind of what I see. And it's very interesting, David, that many people that have middle class paying jobs would feel frightened by someone that doesn't know the terrain, doesn't know the culture, doesn't have the skills to do the things that they do with their, let's say, 60 or 70K a year job. It's no way that a legal or a legal migrant could come and do that work, but we've been tricked in believing that the resources are going to be siphoned away, and that we haven't got our specific part of the pie. And that's why I think there has been a huge situation as it relates to the Black community now, getting into specifics when they see migrants getting temporary status and temporary housing and things of that nature. We feel somehow, some way slighted, and I feel like that is becoming the rising of Black MAGA, because it is the impetus of the original MAGA, which in 2015 the calling card was build the wall, and that's really what started the majority of this. And because he has been beating that same drum for 10 years now, it has now become a song. And all of us now are being infected with the ills and the perils of white supremacy. So some of us are now becoming those that are
entitled
rhetoric. And it's sad that my father of 68 years of age has said immigration has never been a Black man's issue. And now it has become one. And I think it's because of this constant drumbeat and this idea that we are not getting anything specific in our community, because Black people love to say that, what are Democrats doing for us specifically? And because they see migrants getting jobs, although these are jobs that we didn't want in the first place, we feel as though that something is being taken away from us. And it is very, very unfortunate. And so I just hope that we understand that our issue in our community is the collaboration component that we spoke about earlier, Bobby. It is not immigration. Our issue is criminal justice reform. Our issue is public education. Our issue and our biggest issue is not immigration, because our Haitian brothers and sisters, those from Jamaica, those from anywhere in the diaspora, are our allies in any fight that we have. And if we're trying to get something specific, and we can get very specific and say something like reparations, those individuals are going to be the ones to help us, not hurt us in that fight. So I just think it's counterproductive.
Yeah. And during COVID, we saw the meat packing plants. We saw the people working sick, dying on the job. Primarily, most of those were immigrants, and we wanted our sausage, we wanted our chicken, we wanted our meat. So, and I mean, we can't have it both ways. It's one of those things, man, that I think we really have to truly open our eyes to. And I think Chris mentioned it earlier, man. He spoke about compassion. He spoke about where are we on this? Why are we so cold for others getting a piece of the pie?
I see here locally, Sheriff Tony is basically won his race. Let's see.
Yeah, even though he was contested, it was pretty much uncontested.
Amendment 4 is winning so far.
but it needs 60%. And
What
right
about
now,
Amendment 3, Bobby? You seeing Amendment 3? That was very, very big.
yeah, I saw it earlier, and they were down 4 points. They were somewhere around 56 to 44. But I'm hoping it's gonna, like I said, in the later votes, the day of votes come in and push it over that 60%. That's a high watermark to beat. You know, we got to get it to 60%. And you know, with the monies that were pushed in the negative campaign on both sides, on abortion and on the legalization of marijuana, there were a lot of money pushed in to oppose those two amendments. And
I think
with some misinformation.
Yeah, I think on one report that I heard that it was $100 million put into the actual Amendment 3. That's a lot of money for a statewide amendment or referendum. I thought that was, and that's my big push, David and Bobby. To be completely honest, I really feel like corporations and money influence politics far too much. And if we would find a way to be able to deal more from a grassroots and a public financing standpoint in terms of our candidates and in terms of these issues, a lot of this stuff would change, because oftentimes
wasn't that on the ballot? Wasn't that one of the?
Oh, it was 6 to say that you know, public financing should exist. And I just think more at the Fed level that, you know, or at the Supreme Court level in terms of Citizens United, we need that overturned, because corporations are not people, and they're acting as people with these large PACs spending millions, if not billions of dollars on campaigns, whether it be issues or candidates, and it's really taken away from the people. And basically, you know, corporations are being able to get individuals to vote one way or another just based on the money and not based on the issue. And I really hope there's a candidate that comes along at some point in time, whether they're Republican or Democrat, with that very, very strong message.
Amendment 3 is ahead right about now, about 60% of the votes in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's ahead. And I got feedback on that Amendment 3 from one of the professors down at the University of Miami, one of the law professors down there. They were saying initially it was the Morgan and Morgan family. They have a story in reference to one of his brothers that was dealing with a lot of pain issues and used cannabis, you know, to help him deal with, you know, his health issues. From my understanding, the brother later died, and that law firm was a big proponent in putting, I think, the seed money down to get that initiative on the ballot somewhere in some 10 million. So,
oh wow.
From there, I guess it kind of catapulted, because, you know, we've had people on the show that have talked about the cannabis business.
Puff pass.
Yeah, and they kind of shared with us how it's financed and what percentage of people that look like us are actually have their own dispensaries and things of that nature.
Yeah, the licensing is crazy at the state level, David, to be able to get into that, and it's only a few given out. And that's kind of the fear that I have with this particular amendment. Although I think it should be legalized, it may create some corporate issues in terms of some of those that are controlling how those licenses are divvied out and given to those that are eligible or whatever. And just again, it's the money in terms of what's controlling a lot of the things that go on in our government.
Well, we saw with prohibition, more than likely to see more of it even with the legalization of marijuana. However, who benefits the most? It's been my concern. Far too often we're on the wrong side.
Indeed.
We on the wrong side of the weed.
77% of the vote is in, and the amendment for legalizing marijuana is up.
Yeah, we need 60%.
We're up to 55.7, so we're coming. I'm sorry, the amendment is coming close. I want to say, But you know that's a very interesting point. It's nothing new. Same thing was with prohibition and alcohol. Kennedy's had all the money. When we had the moonshine, we had to run moonshine. So Native Americans had peyote buttons. So there's it's just that with this there's nothing new. I hope that this election cycle causes us to communicate more and be more open about what is transpiring. Stop trying to hide and cover up. You know, big finances, as you stated, Brandon, controls a lot of this stuff. And,
they just called Florida for Trump. You heard me, Bobby? They called Florida for Trump just now.
Yeah.
Okay, so I guess that pipe dream was just a dream. So that one, you know, so maybe we'll get North Carolina.
55 to 44. Again, this is what 81% of the precincts reporting. So yeah. But,
so right now we had 27 for Kamala and 90 for Trump. That's been called. And so right now, I see Connecticut, Delaware, Maine, New Hampshire, Pennsylvania, Jersey, Rhode Island. Some of those polls, I believe, just closed. And right now in Pennsylvania, it's too early to call. And right now in North Carolina,
too.
Yeah.
Too early to call.
Tennessee, Trump, Missouri, Alabama, Trump.
Yeah, it needs to be expected. So that is A-okay. When we start to see places like Michigan and Wisconsin and Pennsylvania, I'm very interested to see what's going on in those places, and that's really going to determine a lot of what we need to see in terms of this race.
Yeah, and that'll be later in the evening when those polls close. Therefore, Central and Western time, Pacific time.
And they're showing some of these races as it relates to the. I'm looking at the differences in the vote, and you know, only 45% are in some of these places, but she's trailing behind the Biden number in a lot of these different counties that are important to her victory. And so we'll just see how these things turn out. You know, the night is still early, but I still feel good about our chances. I really do. You know, a lot of the times we don't understand that they've deemed it the red mirage, where in the beginning Republicans are always usually up. Don't know how they count the votes, and the states that are going to come in immediately that have, you know, small electoral amounts. But then as the night continues, when the larger states, you start to see the Illinois and the New Yorks, we begin to catch up. And things of that nature, and we definitely need to see what's going on in the Midwest with Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania. That's going to be very telling, and I know that's going to be later in the night.
I said Rick Scott won Florida. So.
Okay, so that pipe dream is gone as well.
That's gone.
He's at 54.9% there.
Okay, Kamala is up in Virginia, which is to be expected. Virginia, Maryland, and hopefully, like, we can get a little further south of North Carolina. What's the earliest y'all can recall a race being called in terms of, you know, just if y'all could think back?
Well,
was it Kennedy?
Well, I can't go back that far.
I'm just thinking that watching TV at night.
Yeah, just saying it's 10 o'clock. We already know who the president is.
Yeah,
can y'all recall?
Well, not 10 o'clock. But, I mean, obviously, Obama's first victory, it's still monumental in my spirit.
Yeah, because when I think about it, he won Florida and North Carolina, so that was probably
That
a
made
possibility.
an early call. I think it was around midnight.
Oh yeah, probably was. You're right.
After his acceptance speech.
And just so I can get some perspective, man, because I really enjoy hearing from my elders and my mentors. What was that night like for y'all?
Have you ever went outside after a bunch of firecrackers have been fireworks have been displayed, and smoke and hazes everywhere? I promise you, when I went outside, it's as if the whole world was barbecue. It was smoke. I'm serious, because it just. I called my daddy, and he was almost crying. And it was just like, yeah, but you know how big man is. I know he was crying.
Jesse was.
Yeah.
I saw Jesse over there.
Hey, man. But it was like it was a haze, man. It was something that was amazing. That was amazing. Nobody ever thought it. Well, at least I won't say nobody. Obviously, a lot of us did because we voted. But yeah, man, that was amazing.
Totally for me. My family, we were all there together. My youngest truly cried. We had to rejoice in the moment. And then again, having a wife and son there, and daughters, it really made us feel like everything our ancestors had gone through, was worth it. And then to be able to share that moment with the elders that were still alive, that were able to cast their vote, who never dreamed in their lifetime that they would ever see someone of color become president of the United States.
I remember too, when former President Obama had come down Sistro, went across the street to the barbershop. That was something I never will forget. There was an old Haitian lady that had come to the office of the West Side Gazette, and she was saying, did we have any bus transfers that she could have so she could go vote? Yeah, that was. I mean, she came in typical, the traditional Haitian mother, the grandmother.
Mm-hmm.
She had a big bag. She was proper, right? She was dignified in her being, and she wanted to vote. She wanted to vote, and in her broken English, it was, you have a bus ticket, a bus transfer, so I can catch the bus and go vote. So that was something else too.
And then how did y'all feel? Because, some of us not being or understanding how politics works, how, you have to get congressional buy-in and things of that nature. How did y'all feel in terms of the Obama presidency? Because some, black folks feel like he didn't do enough for us. He wasn't a great president. Other of us love Barack Obama. So I just kind of want to get, the insight from the elders I respect as to what y'all felt like. So I got your insight on terms of how you felt that day, but how did you feel about his 8 years?
You said, how do we feel about it in the years? What was that?
No, his 8 years that he was in office.
Oh. If I had any thoughts that were totally arrived from what he did, I was quickly reminded by the black females who were adamant about giving this black man his propers, who were adamant about educating me to what it was on some of the same questions, the same things that you asked. People saying that he didn't do this or he didn't do, there was the influence that black women, mothers picked up immediately, that men, and I'll speak from me and some of the brothers that I had a conversation with, that we discussed. And well, he could have did this. He could have no. So the women were there to educate me on that aspect. So I was not apprehensive, but not fully understanding the totality of what it meant and what he did. That wasn't publicized readily for us to say, okay, I can put my finger on this. He did da 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 da. So,
well, you go a long way around to just say that he stepped into a mess that he had to clean up, and he basically saved the country. Nobody really wants to give him credit for that, but the whole financial debacle could have really taken us out. A lot of people felt like they shouldn't have voted to save these financial institutions, but who knows where we would have been as a country trying to come back from a financial collapse of the richest country in the world. So what he was faced with initially in coming into office, I think we sometimes forget that these were perilous times, had been not faced by any other president in his first year in office. So these are the kind of things that I think, in hindsight, when we look back on his presidency, that's the one thing. Now, did he make some mistakes? Absolutely. Did he trust too many people that didn't have his back? Absolutely. Was it a learning curve? And did we not do well in the midterms that he lost control of the House? Yeah. These things happen. These are learning experience. Was he able to rebound and secure a second term? Yes. That to me is significant. But when you know politics, when you know governance, and you know what he is capable and not capable of doing, I still think his presidency will stand at the best, at the top with the rest. And not just because, he was the first president of color, but the fact that some of the things he was faced with and what we had to overcome in his presidency. And how he left office also stand firm. But there were some engagement overseas. There were some things we got into, but overall, I think his presidency, when we look back in history, it's going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, and leadership is rough, man. I mean, when you stand or sit in the role of a leader, it's rough, and how you handle it. It helps. It's help when you got the people around you who can help buttress that. And if you don't have that, then those moments that we see in turn we may want to call failure it rests upon him, but it's not him directly. It's those who we have around him that has failed. But we don't see that. We don't see the intricate part of, you mentioned knowing about politics or governance. All that is fine, well, and good. But if you hungry as hell and you ain't got nothing on your table to eat, and you're looking at somebody who say they're gonna, so what you see, I mean, I'm not taking anything away from President Obama. I think he did a great job. And to those who differ based upon that cultural level, that innate level where this affects me. Then there's some questions. Yeah, there's some questions. Now I'm not taking anything away from the brother in terms of what he did, both here and abroad. And you said it. Could he do better? Yes. Did he trust too many people? Hell yeah. Did the people he trusts have his back? Hell no. So like if we rate him in lines of presidency, I don't know who was the president in 1930. Was it 32 when the people jumped out the window? The Dust Bowl and all that.
Let's just say this, everybody gonna talk about the first president. Everybody gonna talk about Lincoln, but after that, he's somewhere in there.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying that. The fact
talk about Roosevelt.
Yeah, the fact that a leader sits in position. Boy, some stuff comes at you that you never would imagine. It's how you weather.
Yes, how you weather.
And I think he did a hell of a job
without being assassinated.
And all the threats and other things that came his way.
So we gonna move this show along, man, because we've been talking about Omaha. We've been talking about cities all over this great nation, and I think we got a guest that's waiting to come on.
Okay,
Is she ready? Okay,
both of them.
all right. Go ahead and introduce our dear sister.
Okay, without any doubt. I see we got somebody from Omaha, Nebraska, from the Omaha Star News, our one and only board member from the NNPA, Miss Terry Saunders. What's happening, young lady?
How are you?
We're well. Terry, I didn't see you back there. I'm so busy running my mouth. This young man got my dandruff up. So we were going at it for a minute, and I didn't see you. How are you, Terry?
I'm good. I voted. I'm good.
Mhm.
I've been watching the election results on television. I turned it off so I could join here.
Okay.
It's going to be tight, but it better be right.
Okay. Okay. So what's the feeling out there, in Omaha? What's happening? What was the flavor? What was the
Omaha is known as a blue dot area. I live in a red state, Nebraska. Yes, there are Black people in Nebraska. I always have to give that disclaimer. But when President Obama was elected, we filed an electoral college vote for him from District 2, which was a blue dot. And as I drove around town today, there are signs that, and I watched them make them, that are blue dots in people's yard, just a big blue dot on a white sign. But what's interesting is to see it looks like a Pac-Man figure. It's a red dot with the mouth open, chasing the blue dot with a swirl of orange hair. Disrespectful. But we are confident, we're hopeful that Vice President Harris triumphs. Her sister was in Omaha last Sunday as part of the people who were campaigning on behalf of the vice president. And it is vital. You know, I know that most of the polls are closing. If not, they have already closed. But to just be vigilant. We in the Black press, of course, we all support Vice President Harris, and we all want her to be triumphant. Here in Nebraska, that is certainly our hope. But as we say, it's not only the presidential race, but you got to vote down ballot. There are people running for the Senate, people running for Congress. There are local amendments. And we've got to be on top of it. I have a staff that is very young, and my admin earlier this year said, well, I'm not registered. I said, oh, you can't work here. You got to go. So she went out, she got registered. She came in this morning and I said, go and vote before you come to work. She didn't do that. Oh, I overslept. Get out of here. Go get it done. You know, I realize electoral college rules, and people's defense is, well, my vote don't count anyway. Yes, it does. Don't be fooled. Don't be bamboozled. One of the things that I experienced today is I went to vote. The lines were long. Schools here were closed. And I vote at one of the middle schools. And as I stood in line, and I wasn't outside, I was inside, but it was a long line. But as I stood there and I watched Black men exit the polling place, and they were fist bumping and smiling and fist bumping and fist bumping, it made me kind of emotional that they were leading in our community and they were glad to be there. I saw older men, younger men. It touched my heart that it was so many people lined up till they pulled out some chairs. And if you wanted to sit down in the chair and complete your ballot, which I did, you did that. But there was a young man that was a poll worker, and he was seated at a table with an elderly gentleman, black man. And he was reading his ballot to him so that he could mark his circle and make that vote. We don't have voting machines in Nebraska. You know, we still had that pen and paper, fill in the little circle with your ink. But that man was determined to vote. He couldn't read it himself. Somebody had to read it to him, but he was determined to vote.
Wow, that's a story in itself there.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Yeah. So we're going to bring our other host on, Ms. Sanders, but stay here with us because we want to continue to hear more about what's going on over in Omaha. But without any further delay, Brother Perry Busby, he's our data. He's
Hey.
he bring us some numbers. Perry, how you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you? And Miss Sanders, always good to see you. How are you?
Always good to be seen and see you.
And representing the great state of Nebraska. Okay. I think Nebraska may surprise us. I've been and I'm going to go back to the tabulation center to just monitor this part of the election that is so crucial and one that is so heavily scrutinized. I still want to submit to us that we do need to be more participatory in this part of the election as well. Seeing a lot of Republicans and a lot of lawyers there, but in terms of us, the people, this is a crucial part, and I commend those counties across the United States who are allowing voters to see this process online on the live stream. And I think that it is important that we do view this part of the election. It is the actual vote county and what we should be watching. But I think, and I love that story, Miss Sanders, because that's always the things that keep us coming back is that labor.
Yes.
to see this come to pass. I don't know for sure, but I just kind of get that feeling, that feeling of back in maybe even 2008 of something promising. I think there are a lot of Republicans who see this as an exit sign for them to finally rid themselves of Donald Trump. And so we don't know how that may look in private. And but I just think, we serve a mighty God that if someone like a Dick Cheney can come out in support, I'm very hopeful that there are other Republicans who will follow suit and see that, that Vice President Harris is really the best choice for this moment. And so I'm sent down here being in a university city, with University of Arizona. You're seeing a lot of participation and excitement among our young people. So that is something that is really encouraging, and that we should always shed a spotlight on, because we're always saying that the young people aren't participating, but they are participating in their own way, and they're really saying some things. I heard a Hispanic commentator speak about the influence of young Hispanic daughters in the lives of some of these Hispanic men who seem to be saying they're for Trump. He says, you don't understand the power of daughters. And being a father myself, yeah, I do. I understand the power of your daughters speaking to you in ways that, sometimes others can't. So I'm hopeful.
Okay.
So,
I want to bring up a piece that I read this week. Are you aware of why the year 2042 is significant? In that is the time when the tables will be turned, everything will be flipped upside down, and the minorities will be the majority. And it has been said, or the author that I read said that is why those who are so against minority participation and trying to, in other words, rub us out, because we are getting ready to be the majority and make America great again. That's only saying that greatness exists because of the white majority, but that's getting ready to be gone. And so that is why everybody's clowning about now, because that time is getting closer and we need to be aware. If you haven't heard about 2042, as a kid say, Google it and look it up and see what that means. But that sheds light for me about why people are so adamant and why those Republicans that stick behind that former president and why they are trying to be victorious. We can't let it happen. We cannot let it happen.
Yeah. And Miss Sanders, to that point, it is really in our best interest to, especially for Republicans at this moment. I believe that this victory not only be an etched out victory, but a resounding victory.
Yes.
Because in the grand scheme of things, we do need a viable Republican Party.
Mm-hmm.
In order for this republic to function, I mean, because right now we are relying on the Democratic majority, on the Democratic Party, but that needs to be offset in some tangible ways. And I think that for most people, I think at the end of the day, as our guest Bell Curve said the other day, I think we all are wanting for a time when politics are boring again and just working in the background.
Mm-hmm. Something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
You mentioned that 2042, was that the year?
That's the year.
In 2016, they were talking about the browning of America.
That's it.
There's a fear. I mean, again, right now, this election right here tonight is the beginning of a whole new genre. And,
yes.
And if we're to take advantage of it, then there's some stuff we got to take off, put on the side over here.
Mm-hmm.
And that includes us as a people. I'm sitting here watching these, watching the count come in, and on there's one part of me saying, "Oh Lord, please," and the other side is saying, those who profess to be Republicans for Harris, or those who profess that Harris is the best thing since sliced bread, if they don't go into the box, or they don't cast their ballot in the right way, we won't get what we're hoping for. And I saw it with Andrew Gilliam when he was running for governor of Florida. He was running, and Bill Nelson was on the ticket. Now you had all these people that would vote for Bill Nelson. If those same individuals who voted for Bill Nelson would have voted for Andrew Gilliam, it wouldn't have been close. Period. So this is about democracy. It's about morals. It's about being what you say you are, and stop playing games. And so that's what I'm sitting over here trying to digest. I hear everything everybody's saying. I'm trying to digest this moment to see where we are. And Terry out there in Nebraska, I know you every day you were putting something out there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's your gut instinct? How do you feel from your gut of all the hard work? Is this the one?
From my gut, I can say that Vice President Harris is the one. From my gut, I can also say all those people at all those rallies, all those numbers, you know, the group mentality is, oh yeah. But when you enter that booth, you in there by yourself. And are you going to vote your conscience? Or are you going to vote what your great grandma told you about people? And so I have a slight fear that everybody this running in the crowd is not voting as they should. And I'm very surprised as I watch the results come in. Some states that they said, well, they have voted and they are for the opposition. I don't want to hear about the opposition. You know, we here are the Black press. If the opposition triumphs, what do you think is going to happen to us? What is going to happen? I have a daughter that's in media. What's going to happen to her? What is going to happen to free speech? What is going to happen to democracy? You know, we saw what kind of things transpired on January the 6th, and we still talking about it 4 years later. And so my gut says that in order for us to survive as a people, as an industry, as citizens of a great democracy, Vice President Harris has to be triumphant. I mean, that sister ran all over this country, zigzagging back and forth, Philadelphia, over here, over there, New York, back down, going up in Georgia. She's been everywhere. And for those that said, well, you know, we're not quite sure about what? You know, when somebody tells you who they are and then they show you, what more do you want? And I don't think that she could show us anything else. Even as recent as this evening, she was at the headquarters, in campaign headquarters, greeting some of the campaign workers. She was knocking on doors. Can you imagine what it would mean for the Vice President of the United States to knock on your door, tell me, hey, hi, I'm Kamala Harris and I'm running for president? Come on. You know, that other man is so confused, he's sweating and he don't even know where he's at. Do we want confusion? But the other point we need to keep in mind is that the other person is more senior. He is exhibiting signs of dementia as noted by medical people. Well, look who he's got as his second banana. Now, do we really want him? I think not. And you know, nobody's talking about that. But we need to, you know, we need to be aware. So in my gut says it is Vice President Harris.
Okay.
But that little bird on my shoulders, like, all right, you better hope so.
That's why I'm hopeful.
Yeah, absolutely.
I am hopeful.
And you know, she was not cocky to say, yeah, I got this. You better not. She was very humble, right up to the edge. So I'm going to be watching what goes on in the halls at Howard University, where she is going to be watching from, to see what's really going on.
It's tight. It's tighter than Dick's hat band, and that gets real tight.
Tighter than a dead dog's eye.
And Bobby, are you? Did you see they've already announced that Rick Scott won in his race against McCarthy Powell?
You know, and again, I'm saying from this election, God dog it, if it don't open our eyes to one thing, let it be the fact that the messaging that was done here in the state of Florida was not conducive for getting people who look like me out to vote for that candidate. It just wasn't there. And Perry, we talked about the number of flyers that you got in the mail, or mailers, or whatever they're called.
Hold on.
You finna pull them back out. You
Uh-oh. Does he have a stack?
Oh,
how is that race going?
High glossy stack. Where did all of that? I have so many. There's a race, Terry. It's the Florida State Senate seat. A guy by the name of Corey Simon, who's a African American, he beat last year the Audley. Bobby, you know the Audley family. They long time Democratic family. Yeah, he beat Donna Osley to get that seat. But Corey fits that typical Black Republican stereotype now. Former football player with some credit, who's beloved by the community, may have played pro sports, and now all of a sudden he's in politics. Think Herschel Walker. I mean, that same mold. But Corey voted in terms of the Don't Say Gay, the Stay Woke bill, and even voted in favor of the abortion ban. And in his district is FAMU. He's running against Darryl Parks, and I can't pull him out. But he sent so many glossy photos, and on all of them, he's accusing Darryl Parks of lying and starting a riot. And if you only have to know your history a little bit, Darryl Parks was one of the attorneys representing the Michael Brown family in St. Louis. They're saying that his lies led to the riots in St. Louis, but he's using that seminal moment in Black history. Michael Brown's death was not just some happenstance in Black America, and he's using that as fodder against his opponent. And I thought that this is just a character issue for me. I understand politics are hard, and I just put him in I'm just being very blunt. I put him in the same category as Trump in terms of character. And if there's anything this election is showing, we really have to look at people of character.
Barry, have you gotten any numbers on that race?
So far, in Leon County, Darryl Parks is winning 57 to 43, I think, right now. But I do know that district also includes Gaston County and I think another. So we're going to have to check that. But Leon County is the major component of that race.
Okay, I see we
All
got
right.
Stacey backstage.
And we want to continue to bring some guests on.
Yeah.
Perry, I know you gonna try to hang
Yeah.
out with us for a little bit.
Yeah, I got to head to the tabulation center, so
Okay.
I'm gonna go there and head back. So
Sister
and I'm gonna
Sanders,
try
you
to
got
get
a
on
minute?
my phone from there. I'm gonna
Okay,
log
great.
on from my phone from there. Okay.
Okay, great. Okay, I see we got Stacey Brown, our hashtag Let It Be Known on air host. That's our media guy from the NNPA. Stacey Brown, come on and join us, man. What's happening, Mr. Brown?
I'm here on Black Lives Matter Plaza. There's a protest right by the White House itself. But the other big news out here is how all of the buildings are boarded up. It looks like a war zone. They are preparing for what could be a civil war if this thing don't go the way certain people want it tonight.
Wow. So Stacey, where have you been? I know you've been moving around. What's the flavor, man? I mean, are people on the streets or
people are
other than the?
I had to move. You had sent the message to move away from the protest so that I could hear what's going on, what you're trying to ask or what you guys are talking about. Otherwise, you wouldn't be able to hear me and I wouldn't be able to hear you. But I mean, back behind me, there is probably a good 1,100 protesters back there. The White House they have erected a facade around the White House. You can't even get to it. As I said, the other buildings too, they are boarded up. So a lot of problems. And then at the Capitol today, I don't know if you guys heard the news. A man was arrested trying to enter the Capitol with some sort of flammable material and a torch. So a lot's going on.
So Stacey, these protesters are these pro-Trump? I mean,
So,
who?
A lot of it's a mixture, but there's a lot of it's about the Palestine and Israel situation still, and you're gonna have some pro Trump and the MAGA folks included in that as well. So it's a volatile mix.
Oh wow! Okay. I didn't. Thank you for bringing that to us, man. That's the first I've heard of it. I'm watching news and I haven't seen any of that. So thanks for the black press, man. You own it.
We got to be
man on the street. That's the important part.
Yeah.
The man on the street.
Any other surprises, Stacey?
Well, a surprise right now is even though it's very, very early, is how well, and I know this is going to sound bad, but how well Donald Trump is doing. And I think that while we've had the debate for so long now of what black men and black women are doing, what white women are doing, I think that we are seeing in the early exits that white women have come over to the other side and have started to support the vice president. But Trump right now is enjoying a little bit more black support than he did against President Biden, which is a little alarming. But it's also, again, it's early.
Yeah, sure. So some other early reports, we just got Illinois. So right now the count is 101 Trump, 71 Harris.
Is that the electoral college you're talking about?
Yes, on the electoral college. But we just got Illinois. So right now it's Vermont, Maine, Rhode Island, Connecticut, New Jersey, Delaware, and Maryland.
So the magic number is 270, correct?
That is correct.
And whoever hits 270 first is it, right?
That's correct. It's impossible for both to hit 270.
Yeah, it's impossible.
Right. Well, yeah. But, we got to be prayerful about that number.
Well, how are things in Omaha? Bobby, you reached out far and wide to get Terry in from Omaha. Right. Clovis is supposed to be joining us, and we I reached out to the Zippers, man, and Ottawa, Alabama. So I'm trying to get a mixture of all things. Mm-hmm. So Terry, go ahead and answer his question. Even though he's I know he's there, we just can't see him.
So Omaha, I live in what's known as District 2, and the people are out. I mean, they are out. They are voting. We are 1 hour behind Eastern Standard Time. I'm in the Central Standard Time zone. So here it is 7:45. So the polls will close in 15 minutes. But as I drove around today, and different polling places, somebody said, "Oh, they must be giving away chicken," because it was crowded. I mean, the parking lots were full. People were standing in line 8 o'clock this morning. You know, that is unusual. There was an instance here where a Black woman was running for mayor of our city, and she lost by 700 votes. And it was said that had our community shown up, that wouldn't happen. But today we showed up. And I am hopeful that the down ballot, as they call it, race is strong. We, I mentioned that Maya Harris has been here. Jasmine Crockett's been to Omaha. You know, those are things that Omaha never sees. Those kinds of support coming to little old Omaha, Nebraska, and the Divine Nine showed up. Even Hakeem Jeffries has been here. You know, one right behind the other. And it's amazing that nationally we were seen. It has been shown that, hey, Omaha's on the map. I have to hand it to the Democratic Party leadership here for getting these persons in and showing up.
Okay. Let's bring Stacey back. I see Mr. Brown is getting back. I thought he got mobbed by the mob. So he's back.
Yeah, see, Bobby, only for the chair. I risk my life and limb.
Stacey, take one for the team. But bro, you know, it's really, Stacey, it's heartwarming to see, you know. And I know Greer's somewhere there. That's your sidekick. Y'all doing this for the Black press, and we certainly appreciate it, man.
Really, yes.
Phenomenal coverage, phenomenal.
We try. We are definitely trying. It is, you know, the Black press. We get shortchanged too often, and Greer and I try to be the, you know, that vehicle that lets people know that the Black press is still alive and well.
Thank you. Is there anything, Stacey, that you want to leave us with?
Well, that is early. You know, you guys down in Florida is not going to do Democrats any good. So
they just called it. They called it. We lost the Senate.
But
wow.
It's early. And even as you have stated, with the Electoral College voting, as more votes come in, that's going to keep changing. And it's no reason for anybody to be either pessimistic or overly optimistic at this point. So it's going to be a long night, Bobby Henry and David Wright, and of course Terry Sanders. It's going to be a long night.
I hope I hope it ends in the night. I don't want to see this dragging on.
Let me say this though, you know, if you are to believe, say, the exit polls continue to indicate that folks are concerned about, the number one concern is democracy. If that's the case, if that's how they are voting, then the vice president is in good shape.
Right. But the key word is if.
If, yeah, 100%. 100%.
That visual that you mentioned earlier, that's not, you know, that's, are we fighting for democracy, or we want to destroy what we have?
Well, again, that question too will be answered at some point. Whether it be It won't be tonight. That's that counting. You're not going to get. Now, Donald Trump, here's the thing. Expect at about 11 o'clock Eastern time for him to declare himself the winner, no matter what show, no matter what the count shows, I should say. That is to be taken with a grain of salt.
Yeah.
Until you,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Bobby, but until you hear official word from official people, you just got to keep going.
Stacey, what's the likelihood? People are saying on the streets and that he's fighting to keep himself from going to prison.
Well, that's 100% fighting.
That part.
To keep himself in prison, because at this point, can anybody realistically see Joe Biden or Kamala Harris, if she's elected, can anybody see them giving him a pardon?
Oh, heck no.
Yeah, he's burned every potential bridge, and so he's only counting on either winning or stealing this. And you remember, that's the other part of this, which is why I know that they were hoping, and the Democrats are really hoping that this, the margin of victory, if they are able to pull out a victory, is large enough that this doesn't wind up in the courts, because you know that the Supreme Court belongs to Donald Trump.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And you got the House Speaker right now who says, "Hey, I'm going to side with Donald Trump regardless." So you kind of, if you are a Democrat, you're hoping that she gets 300 electoral college votes.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So it won't be
something
a question
that is
about a question. Yeah,
unquestionable.
No question. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So.
Well, we need Omaha to show up. We need Nebraska to show up.
I'm trying to hold it down over here.
And show out. Yes, all of that Midwest. Yes.
There you go. Well, I will. I mean, I don't know how long you're going to be on it, but just send me a note if you want me to check in again.
I will. Have you heard any other races? Anything from New York? Anything
well, you got Delaware has its first black female senator. Lisa Blunt Rochester won her race. Also Brooks in Maryland, another black.
Also Brooks, she won.
Also Brooks is expected to win.
Okay.
It's looking like that's going to be insurmountable for her opponent. So she's on her way. So the House of Representatives, that's something else that they're watching too, because if the Democrats are able to take the House, you're going to have the first black speaker in Hakeem Jeffries. So that's something else to watch. The Senate is not looking good, as they've already flipped the seat in the Senate. But they're still holding out hope. Democrats are still holding out hope that they can even win the Senate. So we'll see.
Okay. All right. Thank you, my brother. Stacey Brown from the other side of town.
On the other side of town. Thanks a lot, Bobby Henry, David Wright, and Terry Sanders. Y'all keep doing what y'all doing.
Stay safe.
Brother, you stay safe.
All right. Stay safe, brother.
Yeah,
stay safe.
safe.
All right.
Wow.
So yeah, we're getting close to the top of the hour, and again, we know this is gonna be a long night. But Sister Sanders, we surely appreciate you coming on.
Well, I appreciate you all inviting me. I tell Bobby Henry all the time, just tell me where you need me to be, and I'll be there.
You certainly are supportive, and it's a two-way street. So.
And NNPA is important. My story, whenever I talk about the Black press and I say how many Black newspapers there are, people are like, really? And then I feel sorry for the people that say to me, well, nobody reads. And I said, the Black press is breadcrumbs to our history. You can't go on social media and find out what you talked about yesterday. Good luck. But you can always go to the archives of the Black press and find out what happened and what is happening. And we have to continue to tell the story, because that's what it is. Our ancestors were storytellers. The griots, those were the people that told the story down through the years. And the Black press is no different.
I know you working on something. I know real soon You will have
Oh
your
yeah.
museum. So
Oh yeah. Someone just this weekend called me. They were moving out of their home, and the lady said, "Well, I got some magazines." I went to their house and got 8 boxes. Jet, Essence, Black Enterprise, Savoy. And it was interesting.
Savoy?
Savoy, yes.
Yeah.
Whole box of those. And some Omaha Stars. And the young lady that works for me just turned 21. She said, oh, and Ebony too. She said, well, what? I never heard of Jet. I said, okay, you sort through those boxes and I want that stuff cataloged. I want to know what issues we have and who's on the cover. And she started yesterday. And she said to me this afternoon, you know, I have to admit you're right. This stuff is really important. I thought it was somebody was being a hoarder. I said, you better thank that person that was hoarding because there are young people that know nothing about Jet. They know nothing about Ebony. She said, well, why was it 2 different sizes? Because, and
Good question.
yeah, you know, there's a little one, there's a bigger one. And then she wanted to know, well, why is the Jet so little? Because you could put it in your pocket. I mean, and I remember Jet. I remember every week you got a Jet message. So, well, how often do these come out? Yeah, you
remember Jet?
Everybody remembers Jet. Who was the beauty of the week?
Jody Watley.
Look at y'all. But you know, and thank you, Bobby, for mentioning the fact that the offices of the Omaha Star this summer, 2025, will become the Omaha Star Institute, and it will be a museum dedicated to the excellence in Black journalism. And as I look at those periodicals all over the office, the fact that we could have just one exhibit about Jet and go from kin to king. When I was at NABJ this summer, I took the bus tour. I believe in a good bus tour because you can learn a lot. They drove us down Michigan Avenue, and Johnson Publication has the only garage door facing Michigan Avenue. Everybody else had to drive around to the back of the building. John Johnson went in right through the front, and they didn't know what he was doing. And by the time he had it built, too late, it was done. And that garage door still exists, as does that building. So that's history. You know, we got a rich history, and while people aren't looking, we have done the thing. And so we have to lean on that. So yes, there'll be a exhibits on Ebony and Essence. And she said, well, how long has Essence been around? You know, sometimes I just want to jump out my skin. I'm like, girl, do you understand? I said, this is history. So it's important. And yeah. So in Omaha, I'm going to be holding it down.
Yes, you are. Yes,
holding
you are.
it down and sharing it with the world.
Okay.
Well, thank you so much for that. You brought back so many great memories and a big smile on my face.
I know that's right.
Every week you had to get it. And top hits in there.
That's it.
Couldn't beat that centerfold.
No.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So before we close, we gotta bring Mr. Brandon Freeny back on. He's been the brother that spearheaded, had the mindset to put this together. So,
you're breaking up a little bit, David. So I'm not sure what you're saying.
yeah, right. I'm bragging on you, letting people know you had a lot to do with this broadcast tonight.
Oh, I appreciate that. I really do.
Yeah.
I really do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're looking at the results. I see.
Did you guys see that Amendment 4 didn't pass?
The who? Did it pass?
Did you see that the abortion amendment didn't pass?
No, I missed that. It didn't pass.
In Florida, correct.
Hold up.
No, I missed that. I didn't see that.
Yeah, it just came up probably about a minute or two ago. It was 57 to 43 in Florida with Amendment 4. I'm not sure what's going on with Amendment 3, but NBC News just called it.
Yeah, Amendment 3 was lagging behind too, about 4 points as well.
Well, Florida.
Okay, so yeah, that one lost by 3. So I guess we'll see shortly.
Okay. Well,
they already called Texas too. So they at the top of the hour, they just called for Trump.
Yeah, I'm seeing it 53.7 to 45.1 to Trump.
it's gonna be a long night, man. I can't.
So now we have 154 called to 30 to Harris.
How many?
Yeah, so I mean the race is for those that are uninitiated and things of that nature, the race is kind of going as planned. The states that are going to break one way or another that are going to determine the election, really none of those races have been called. The Georgias, the North Carolinas, the Arizonas, the Michigans, the Wisconsins, the Pennsylvania. So if we're feeling down out there, we there is still hope. So none of those races have been called. And right now it's 64% for Kamala in Pennsylvania. I know it's really early, but I just want those that are watching that may not, stay up late night and watch election coverage not to get discouraged, because right now it's 154 for Trump and 30 for Kamala.
I'm seeing a different number. I'm seeing 120 to 99. So I'm not sure where our numbers are off, but
where are you getting your source from, David? I'm looking at NBC.
Okay, no, this is on a Google search on Election USA 2024, and it's basically doing a state by state count. So
yeah, that go ahead. I'm sorry.
And they're not officially calling some of the states you're calling right now. They did call Florida, South Carolina, Alabama, Mississippi, Louisiana, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, Indiana, all went to Trump. We're starting to get the central states now, North and South Dakota,
Did you
Wyoming.
call Texas yet in that poll?
It didn't, but the stats show 53.4 to Trump and 45.4. That's with 56% reporting.
Okay. Yeah, now they're showing. I'm looking at on here. They're showing the.
Is it giving the percentage report? Are your polls giving the percentage?
Not as of yet. It just said it was called for Texas. It didn't give a specific number, but a very important thing is happening now. They're showing that Kamala is running in some of these counties that she needs to run up the vote totals and the margins. They're showing in Georgia that she's outperforming Biden in a lot of those counties right now. There's some that she's about 1 point off, but the vast majority of those, like Clayton, Cobb, Gwinnett, some of those counties, she's running right now ahead of Joe Biden, which is a very, very good thing, because that's where we got to run up the vote totals.
As well as Fulton.
Yeah, so as long as she can stay ahead of what Biden did, that should look good in terms of, what can happen this time. Because if he won with those 11,000 votes difference, we should be able to, at least match that or exceed that this time around if she keeps some of these margins and percentages going in Georgia.
Excuse me, we got time? You want to hear from Arizona?
No, they haven't even closed, but yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I haven't seen Arizona yet, Bobby.
Yeah, no, that polls haven't closed yet. And you know, we won't get Arizona's numbers.
No, I'm saying they published it here.
But if we got a publisher that want to bring it, absolutely.
We got one person viewing. Okay, let me see. Can you come on?
Did he have the link?
I sent it to him.
I'm gonna drop off for a second, y'all. I'm gonna come back into the studio.
Okay.
All right.
The news here is saying that election results are that the blue dot could swing the vote.
So you guys got a chance, opportunity to do that.
Yes.
Okay.
You know, that's powerful.
Well, that's what I'm seeing here. When I scroll over that Nebraska, it's showing right now with 26% reporting, it's saying 41.3 to Trump and 57.7 to Harris.
That's it.
And that's with a little over 200,000 votes cast.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a lot of early voting that took place.
There's a blue dot next to her name. Yeah.
Yeah, the blue dot is important.
Yes.
You know, there was a gentleman here that was running for Senate. 80 plus years old. His father was a musician. The name was Preston Love. He was a sax player, and Preston Love Jr. is running. And he is running against Pete Ricketts. Ricketts' family owns the Chicago Cubs. And when the representative from Nebraska stepped down, I think he came to Florida to be at a university. The Ricketts was the governor of Nebraska, and so he was appointed into his position. And Preston ran because he wanted to see issues that Ricketts would never address come up. And they never debated. Preston ran across the state, and it'll be interesting to see how that comes out. I know he's hopeful. And Ricketts acted like he was just a gnat. He never even acknowledged the fact that he was running against him.
Who is the 80-year-old?
His name is Preston Love Jr. And his campaign office was across the street from the Omaha Star. And he would always say to me, well, people need to know about what I'm doing. Yes, people do. But just in case they don't, you know, you ran a good race. But this is truly a Republican state. And so when you start looking at representation, and he even gave me 2 articles, one for if he won and one if he didn't. So now I got to stay up late to figure that out to see which article was going to go in the paper. But that's the thing about being a community-centered paper. People know how to find me. They can find me in the grocery store. When I was standing in line today voting, I saw a couple. I said, you know, I need y'all to be family of the week. Oh, we're going to take our Christmas pictures and we're going to be in. I said, very good. But that's what the Black press is. It is the press of the people.
Absolutely.
It is the press of the people.
So, Sister Sanders, in closing,
yes,
and all the great things that I hear y'all are doing, especially with this Ebony and the Jet Essence and all the story Black magazines. In closing, we're gonna go ahead and go off there. We're gonna let Bobby do our. He's trying to get in.
It's 9 o'clock.
We're gonna go ahead and let you just give us your closing comments on the show.
My closing comment is that I stand for Vice President Harris. I'm hoping that the blue dot takes over and just makes everything blue. I stand for the Black press and the importance that the Black press is in the nation and the importance of the Black press in democracy. You know, the fact that Stacey Brown is over there standing on Black Lives Matter, I call it Boulevard Street, that runs right into the face of the Capitol. And I've been there and seen, you know, how they painted Mayor Muriel Bowser. She was very intentional in what she did when she painted Black Lives Matter on that street. And if it starts to go away, they go out there and repaint it. They get that yellow paint out and get busy. It's amazing. And I visit Washington often. I have been the publisher at the Omaha Star for 4 years, and just last year purchased the paper because I believe in what we represent. And our founder, Mildred D. Brown, was present at the NMPA when it was established. So I feel a kinship that I have a duty to carry that legacy on as far as Omaha is concerned. And people laugh, and I always say, yes, there are Black people in Nebraska. And when I get up, I say that part first, because you need to know we are out here holding it down and holding up the banner of the Black press. And I thank you for bringing me on. And if you need me back, Bobby knows how to find me.
For sure.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Terry.
My brother.
All right. Well, this one is a wrap. This is our first night of political coverage. Very interesting. So fortunate to have publishers from around the country to come in and chime in and keep us informed to what's happening. But one thing I want to leave us with is, any way this pendulum swings, we got to be ready. And there's no other way to ready ourselves than to unite. Find a cause for us to come together collectively, and let's work to achieve the goal that's keeping democracy on the forefront for everybody, not just for a selective few.
Right.
So I want to thank all the publishers that came on, all our viewers that stayed with us. And if you stand up all night, that's all right. Know that this too shall pass, and joy will come in the morning. Amen. God bless you all, and take care.
Good night.
Thank you.
All right.